The base is dropped on another edition of Soccer Down Here. It is an overreaction Thursday here on the show. It's October 15th. Atlanta United drew 1-1 last night in Fort Lauderdale against Inter Miami. There's a lot to talk about from it. Stats are there. We can talk about those. We'll get into everything else from the match as well, and anything else from the MLS schedule last night, because there were a lot of interesting results around the league. Going to set the table for what's to come this weekend. Project Big Picture in England has been thrown out for now. We'll see what comes of it, because there's still a need for a bailout. We'll get into that. We'll get into Nations League action from yesterday and anything else you guys want to get into. The way you can help us set the agenda is this. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. Send us an email, soccerdownhere@gmail.com, or join us on the Twitch pitch, twitch.tv/soccerdownhere. Last night, this is going to sound weird, but I'm going to try to explain it. That was fun to call, and I'll tell you why. First half wasn't fun. First half, you were being overrun, but first half, you didn't break either. Second half, a little more give and take. But the team showed a spirit in them that can help right now when things are difficult. Look, you get the lineup, and you have no Franco Escobar, you have no Marcelino Moreno, you don't have Jurgen Damm to start. It's going to be tough going up against Miami, who was on a 2-game winning streak, who has incorporated Gonzalo Higuain, who has incorporated Blaise Matuidi, who has a lot of talent. Lewis Morgan, one of the newcomers of the year in the league this season. Matthias Pellegrini, exciting young player. Lots of different stuff here. So you were going to be overmatched in a lot of ways on paper. And it played out that way in the first half. But this was a game, and I felt like I just kept repeating it over and over again, that stats didn't really matter in it. It was all about the final result, and it's probably because I watched the South American qualifiers on Tuesday, where every game is a slugfest / wrestling match / street fight / not UFC like 200 or whatever number they're on now, but like UFC number 1, where it was pretty much anything goes. That's what this game felt like. It was a very difficult one to manage if you're Ismail Elfath. I thought he did all right. I mean, he called 30-something fouls. He could have sent people off early, and I don't think that's what we would have wanted. I didn't like the early yellow card to Eric Remedi because you didn't see that the other way. All right, fine. If that's what we're talking about with a referee, I can deal with that. That's fine. It could have been a lot worse. But Atlanta just got on with it, and they rescued a point after conceding a goal, and then they outplayed Miami the rest of the match. They honestly could have won the match. Jurgen Damm chops it back to his left foot, and just a little too much, couldn't regain it. George Bello a little too slow to make the decision. Miami takes it away. There you go. But you can zero in on the stats. You can and point to all that, and all that's absolutely valid, as best as we know anyway. There were a few that I'm kind of wondering how they got credited for a shot when it was a cross. But anyway, it doesn't matter because you got a point out of it. And I felt like you had to, at a minimum, get a result here. Because now you go into 5 games left. You have 2 at home. You have 3 on the road. The 3 on the road are all very difficult. The 2 at home are very winnable. You've got to get those home wins. And if you can steal something else on the road, you're in really good shape. But Nashville's win last night doesn't help you. Chicago didn't play last night. That actually might help Chicago. Minnesota had a presumptive positive yesterday, and they weren't able to confirm it. This was on the backs of 2 positives from the weekend, so that's the right call, because it's not just one presumptive positive. It's a number of players that they're having issues with at this point. But that might end up helping Chicago if you go to a points-per-game situation. If they can't make that up, we'll have to wait and see. But you got something out of the match. And this time of year where you are fielding What? I mean, you look at the lineup last night. If you were at full strength, you would have maybe half of that lineup on the field. Maybe. On the road, and you're getting a point, you take it and you run. You put the mask back on, you get on the plane, and you get back home before anybody can take that point away from you. And that needs to be a springboard. We talked about it after the Orlando game, where you came back the other time, you conceded first, and you came back and got a result. That one ended up not really being the springboard that it needed to be. This has to be. It doesn't mean you have to go win against Toronto. It means you have to play better and have more of the game for the 90 minutes against a very good team. If you do get a result, even better. But you have to perform better there. Then you get a week to rest. Then you get some time to actually recover for that final stretch run. And you need to be crossing every finger and every toe you got to get a healthy, as match fit, as match sharp as he can be, Marcelino Moreno into the team for that final 4-game run. You need to get Jurgen Damm into the team as much as possible. We've seen what he brings to the table. You'd love to get Kubo Torres in there as much as you can. You saw what he brought to the table last night with very little practice time. You'd love to get Ezequiel Barco into this team. We know what he brings to the table. You can get them back for that final 4-game stretch run. We're having a very different conversation about this team, but they showed a lot of character last night in getting a result.
Yeah, the word that I had written down about last night was fight. They had a lot of fight with them. And I can understand completely where you're sitting there and saying it was a fun game to call. Obviously, take the first 45 out of it. But I understand, like, the last 20, as stretched as it was and as back and forth as it was and as exciting as it was, all the chances that were there, all the give and take and the back and forth, I can definitely understand how if I am disturbing the boss as she's watching something on the computer in the mid-level and I'm screaming in the office and she can overhear me as to how I'm reacting, I can definitely understand how it was in the booth for you last night. But
I think I pulled something on the goal. there was a vigorous, it was beyond a fist pump. I don't know what it was, but I was a little excited.
Yeah, I got to check the rotator this morning.
Yeah, it could be the bicep. I don't know. It something felt like it went a little bit, but I mean that's why we do this, right? Like that's the thing. It's not always going to be 5-0, pretty wonderful, all the big goals. I mean, in the pregame I talked about the Argentina-Bolivia game a little bit, where Lautaro Martinez blocks a clearance into the goal for an equalizer, and then they did have a nice goal for the winner, but I mean, that wasn't a pretty game. That was a brawl. And then Lionel Messi wanted to brawl after the game. But that's sometimes what games are. And you need to be able to hang in those as well. You want to be a team in Atlanta United that plays the pretty soccer, that scores a whole bunch of goals, that creates a whole bunch of chances. You want to be that team at all times. You can't be that team at all times, even when everybody's healthy. You're going to have nights where it's just not on. You're going to have nights where the opponent takes something away from you. You're going to have nights where you're playing a really good opponent. And you have to be able to win a street fight, too. They didn't win the street fight, but they didn't get knocked out either. And they got back up after a pretty good shot from Miami with Breck Shea to take that lead. They got back up and knocked Miami down. And Nicolas Figal, I think, has gotten back to his feet after Jurgen Damm cut back on him. If not, Adam John will probably throw him down again. And LGP, I mean, dude, I don't know what you were trying to do after the goal in trying to block Jurgen Damm. You kicked the ball away, and then you rolled over like he had done something to you. Come on, man. Stop.
Mm-hmm.
But that shows you, and Nicolas Figal going full turtle after the game, that shows you who felt better walking out of that building last night.
Yeah.
Those little things show you. Atlanta can take some positivity out of that, and they got to build on it on Sunday.
Yep. El Monteflo says, some say Figal is still sliding. And
it's possible. It's possible. Man, that was a good cutback, and he almost pulled it again. It's just the second time it was too heavy of a chop back with the right foot to the left. You want to get Jurgen Damm healthy and playing as much as possible. That could end up being a real steal when all is said and done.
And Antonio says that Figal just slid into Biscayne Bay.
Yeah, it's possible. They might have to fish him out. Again, Adam John will throw him back in if he needs to.
Yeah. But no, I liked the limited sample size that we saw with the interaction with Kubo Torres and Jurgen Damm last night. Kubo came in for 10 minutes.
We've seen it before. It's not new. Those two have played together, and you could tell. They've got history together, and we've seen it, and it was building, and then they both got hurt. So we knew that was there. And look, for Kubo Torres, you're talking about a guy, and Stephen Glass mentioned it in the post-game media availability. He's barely trained.
Yeah.
I mean, he's back, which nobody expected to be back this quickly. He hasn't trained a whole lot. You know his quality. He's fresh. Hey, he can give you a few minutes and take the few minutes. And he came in, and no, he wasn't sharp, but he knows. You lean back on what you know. At that time, he knows, hey, I've got Jurgen Damm here. He can run down anything. All right, cool. Let's do this. I know what I'm going to do. Play it to him, and I'm going to turn around and I'm going to run to the box. Simple. Sometimes, games like this, keep it simple.
Mm-hmm. And obviously happy for Jake Mulroney to finally to get a goal on the board here in his pro career on this side of the Atlantic Ocean.
Yep. Lots of stuff on the Twitch pitch, and we'll get all the Twitter as well. Uncle No Pockets says, so, Cubo, WTF, thought he was done for the season. That was poorly reported, to be honest. I think the original comment was done for most of the season, which even coming back now feels like a little bit of, wow, okay, he's a little early. He was never said to be out for the season. I saw some people saying, like, oh, he's on the injury list. It's like there's only one person on the injury list because there's only one person that can be on the season-ending injury list. But Kubo got back quicker than we expected. You take it. You take it. Injuries are brutal this year. Glassy talked about it in the postgame as well about Franco Escobar. He was banged up coming out of the Red Bulls game, and if you watch that game and the effort he put in, you'd understand how even if it's not a major injury, it's just he gave you everything he had in that. He's going to be feeling it. Well, he was still feeling it to the point they didn't want to risk him in this game for injury.
Yeah.
And you wanted to play him in it. Anton Walks steps in the door and does the job. Walks was our man of the match on radio. Miles Robinson was excellent. Gonzalo Higuain didn't have a big influence on the match, and a lot of that's down to Miles Robinson. And what I want to do, and if there's any really good video editors out there, and you want to clip this one for me, the play very, very late, it might have been the last touch of the ball for Miles Robinson when Higuain is there kind of backing into him, and Miles goes up like an eagle flying into the air and heads it away. And maybe I'm just wishful thinking here that he kind of gave a bit of the Onyewu glare to Higuain. He went up very powerfully to win the header, and it looked like it had a little bit of an oomph to it. It was something that struck me at the very end. The thing about Miles that I think has changed here, now that he is feeling good physically, because we've seen middle point of the season, he didn't look like himself. He didn't look comfortable. He didn't look like he was moving comfortably. He's looking like the old Miles Robinson now, but with an edge to him. With a little bit of all right, I've been around the block a few times, and I'm sick of getting cheap-shotted. I'm going to come in and be physical now. Now you guys are really in trouble. And that's what it feels like for him. Great performance from him last night. Great performance from him and Walks. The goal wasn't from them. The goal was from Bello and Lennon both getting caught. Bello gets beat on the 1v1 by Lewis Morgan, who's an excellent player. It was one of the only times that Bello was beaten in that situation. And Lennon got caught flat-footed. The one question, and I don't know if we'll get the answer because it was kind of awkward for us calling it from here and not being able to see how everything was developing. You had Lennon get injured. You had Lawrence White get up and start getting ready. You had one opportunity to make the sub when Lennon was making the throw. It looked like he was having a conversation with the bench area. And I don't know if he talked them out of the sub at that point or what, or if it wasn't ready yet, because that was only a couple minutes after the injury. I don't know if White would have been ready to go yet. I don't think it was because of injury that Lennon got caught. He got caught ball watching, and he got caught flat, and Breck Shea ran in behind him, and Lennon couldn't close that ground. Then the sub happened. I don't know if they could have made the sub or if they should have made the sub before that. I mean, hindsight 2020, yeah, they should have made the sub. But Lennon was moving okay, He was just banged up after I think he got kicked, and then he had that bad, completely misplayed ball switching from the right to the left. But I think Glassy said he got kicked before that. So anyway, that's probably about the only question. The goal didn't come from Robinson or Walks. It came from wide play from Miami. Robinson and Walks shut everything down and shut Higuain down.
Yeah, no, it's I had taken the two instances of Lennon being down, getting treated by the physios, and the goal by Shea as two separate incidents. I did not link the two together. I just thought that Lennon did get caught flat-footed, and Breck beat him to the back.
He was moving pretty well after that, so that's why I don't think it was because he couldn't move. I think he got caught ball watching on that sequence, and Breck beat him to that. And Breck's played really well. Matt Wagner had asked what's gotten into Breck. He didn't play like this for Vancouver or for Atlanta. He did at points, actually. I would disagree. I think for Vancouver, he did have some pretty big moments for them. And here, I mean, he was very important early on last season when you had the George Bello injury and you had to figure it out on the left side. And Breck played a lot of big minutes at left back, which isn't his best position. I think Miami's using him in the best way right now as a sometimes starter, option off the bench. When you have a guy like Lewis Morgan on the opposite side who can put in crosses, Breck coming in off the back post with his height, he's a threat in the air. He's also very skilled in the 1v1. He's in a good spot in Miami. It's a team that kind of suits him right now. So I think you got some of this in Vancouver and Atlanta, but he's in a really good team, in a team that fits him really well right now.
Yeah, and when he's brought on, it seems like he's giving you that instant result that you're looking for, whether it's being in the right place, right time, shot on net, those kinds of things. So it looks like it's the right situation for him right now in Miami.
Yeah, Bern Dursberger says, watching Matuidi, I had to think of Mourinho. You have to be, if you watch All or Nothing, you know what he says. Matuidi for sure is. I would completely agree. Our midfielders are not, except for Jeff. They're too nice. We need a few for next season. Yeah, you do. I think Mo Adams has got a little bit of that in him. When Matuidi tried to kind of bully him at one point, Mo didn't back down at all. I thought Mo came in again and played well. Jeff gave you what he had, and it wasn't a ton. And then Adams came on and did a good job. Mo Adams is a player who I thought maybe after the first 45 against Orlando, where he really struggled, I thought maybe that was it for him here. I thought maybe that was going to do it. We didn't see him for quite a while. He's, played himself back into contention, and for me, I think he's played himself back into a potential roster spot for next year because he's on a cap-friendly number. He is a secondary player with this group. But if he can come in and give you minutes like he has over the last 3-4 appearances, you'll take that off the bench. You'll take that and run with it. So, when you're thinking about overall roster construction, I know it's easy to get caught up in starters and that and just the 11 and not worry about the rest. But guys like Mo Adams are important. Guys like Lawrence Wyke are important. Wyke's becoming a player that we're starting to see regularly off the bench. He had some poor balls last night, but you're going to get a good shift from him work rate-wise. Did the job that was needed. You want him to be just a little more comfortable on the ball, when he has at times this season. But he's worked himself into a contributing role. You need those guys to be able to step in as needed in matches. When you have a bunch of injuries like this, when you have a run of games, you also need them in training because they raise the level of training because they don't back down. I do agree with Byrne in general. You need a little more nastiness in that midfield. In general, you need it. It's something that's going to need to be part of the equation for next year going forward.
You mentioned Lawrence Wyke. El Mataflo came in after the match last night and said Wyke was playing like a Regista as a right back. Clearly, this is the next great tactical shift.
Well, the thing is, they know that Wyke, at that point in the game, too, where you're struggling, you're down a goal, you're looking for something quick, you know that Wyke's got a great right foot. So you're looking for him to play that ball in over the top, that long diagonal. He nearly had one checkup for Kubo Torres down the right side. It was a good idea from him. I think Dom would have got there. Kubo didn't have the legs to get there. Wyke has played himself into it because of the twos. I mean, again, I think it's easy to forget about how you bring in a guy like that into the club. He played at Furman, He had some time in English academies. It never worked out for him to get a contract. He comes over to Furman. He does really well, but he wasn't part of the MLS Combine. He wasn't part of the draft picture. He didn't get drafted. He comes to Atlanta to join the Twos as just a college signing and turns himself into a vital part all the way up to getting into the first team. It's a great success story. And Wyke is a guy who just will play any position on the field wherever he's asked to play. He's not going to back out of anything. He is strong and physical, but he's technical, and he's got that right foot. He can contribute. He can help you, and you got to find those guys as well. Really good get, and a guy that I think Stephen Glass really trusts because of the Twos last year and because of what he's done this season so far.
Yeah, you had mentioned man of the match. Miles, for me, was man of the match, although there's pretty much anybody at the back. You mentioned Anton as a part of that discussion, too. I had Miles as man of the match.
Yeah, those were our two that were standouts. We gave it to Walks. Miles could have been man of the match. Brad Kazan with 5 saves, a couple of really big ones. Look, it was a fight, and it wasn't a pretty fight, but you got out of there on your feet. And that's how you've got to find results in this league right now, because you're not going to score a bunch of goals. You know, I mean, if you want to get disappointed about that every game and every day and argue and fight about it and then point to stats and point to shots and point to these things, that's fine. They're real. Like, they're not fake. They're real. I don't know. Some of those shots might be fake. But in general, your attack is not where you want it to be, and it's not where a lot of teams are. These are facts. That doesn't mean you throw in the towel and just say, well, nothing matters anymore. Because you take something out of games like this. You take something out of being a team that's difficult to beat. Go show me a blowout Atlanta United's had this season where it just rolled over. Just nothing. Just awful. Even in Nashville, where they were bad, they still fought in that one and cut it to 4-2. This is a team that'll fight. This is a team that'll make it a difficult day for you. That's a foundation to build on. You take that spirit, you take that energy, and you add the talent on top of it that you could even get in a couple of weeks with Dom, with Moreno, with Cubo Torres, with Barco. You take the fighting spirit, you add that kind of talent on top. You added Joseph to it next year. He loves the fighting spirit anyway. You are in a good position. You'd rather be there than the other way around, where you have a bunch of stars who, when the going gets tough, crumble. Look at the LA Galaxy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Look in some ways at LAFC right now. If they're not scoring much, they're done. They're not going to shut you down defensively. They can't. Look at some other teams around the game right now. You haven't seen Atlanta get blown out in a game. They're a difficult out for opponents, even when they're not creating a lot of chances. That's the kind of energy you want in a team.
Yeah, you mentioned LAFC and LA Galaxy. You look at the roster that Bob Bradley had to put out there last night. He was relying on Eric Duenas, who isn't quite 16 years old. Duenas had to put in minutes last night, and it was a tough slog for them going up against Vancouver. And
yeah, Tyler Wolf had to put in minutes this year.
Yeah.
George Campbell had to put in minutes this year, even before the pandemic. I mean, you've had to turn to guys here too. I mean, sorry, that's I hate it for LAFC with the injuries, but they're part of the game, and I guess it's let's feel sorry for LAFC and Bob Bradley having to turn to some kids. Funny how that hasn't happened in other parts of the league, that cities that start with an A. It's been all criticism with all the injuries. Okay, just wondering. Okay, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just don't think that Bob Bradley has a deep enough roster even when he's at full song. I just don't think Bob Bradley has a deep enough roster, and in those individuals after 12, 13, 14 on the roster, I don't know if he has any trust in those individuals, and because they're not getting trotted out with any kind of consistency, you see a game like what happened last night with Vancouver, where Vancouver, Mark Dos Santos, you have Cavallini's getting healthy, and you see what Lucas Cavallini can do, and they go up and knock off LAFC last night, and I have no earthly idea, other than just being absolutely porous defensively. The wheels have completely come off with the LA Galaxy for me.
Okay. Sorry, I got caught with the whiplash with bouncing around.
Sorry, it was an LA sentence that had multiple subjects.
Yeah. LAFC has injuries. LAFC has international absences. That's going to affect them right now. Vancouver's not a good team. I don't care if they're getting Lucas Cavallini back or anything else. They're not a good team. That's a bad performance for LAFC, but it wasn't as bad as the Galaxy. Getting blown out at home by San Jose, who's been all over the place, good and bad. To the point that you're getting people who work for the Galaxy saying that they've never seen it this bad. The LA Galaxy aren't a club who should be having that kind of problem. That's the differences here. Have they had injuries? Yeah, they have. They've had some. Have they had the same number of absences as some other teams? No, I don't think so. They're not a club that should be in this kind of situation in general, but they have been since 2016. Since Bruce Arena left to rejoin the national team going into the 2017 season, they've been bad. Zlatan papered over cracks. He did. He scored a bunch of goals. They weren't really a good team at that time. They didn't get into the postseason one time. They did the second time. They did win a playoff game. But 17, 18, 19, 2 playoff games, 1 win, that's not where the LA Galaxy should be, and not for what they've spent with a Zlatan, with a Chicharito, with a Christian Pavón, with a Jonathan Dos Santos, Gio before that. They should not be in this situation. There is a difference when you watch the fight, when you watch the emotional response on the field from players between the Galaxy and between what you've seen here in Atlanta. Massive night and day difference. And that's all you can do. Look, if you don't have the players because of injury or because of international absence, because of whatever, you got to make up for it some way.
Yeah.
You have to. And you can't just hang your head and say, oh, well, we're going to lose today. You can't turn into that and expect to be a champion. You can't. You've got to be able to fight through when you don't have it, when you don't have it on the night, when you don't have it in the roster, when you don't have it because you have key players on the injured list. You have to be competitive at all times. You have to be difficult to play against. And Atlanta is that. They need to be better, more consistently in the attack. They need to not fall behind before things start to click in the attack. They need to just be more decisive in the attack. Not hesitate. Not look for the perfect ball. Not get scared going into the final third. None of those. Be more decisive. Be quicker with the decisions. Those things need to happen. But you got to stay as a difficult team to beat.
Yeah, I mean, for me, just one final thing on LAFC. I just think that you look at roster number 15 down for LAFC, and Bob Bradley, for whatever reason, doesn't run those guys out, give them any kind of consistent minutes or anything, and he wants to run with that first 13 or 14 guys. And then when you're forced to bring in 15 and down, then you see what happens with LAFC in a situation like last night. I think that, honestly, if you were to put LAFC's full roster, 1 through 23, you line them up against Atlanta United's 1 through 23. I would rather have Atlanta United's 1 through 23 each and every time out because of the depth that is there, because of the minutes that are there, because of everyone that is trotted out and has certain roles that you can put in certain situations, and the faith that we've seen by Stephen Glass in putting those guys out there, putting a Lawrence Weick out there, having Tyler Wolff put minutes out there. You know, to me, I have more faith in an Atlanta United roster than I do in an LAFC roster top to bottom.
I mean, you're pointing out Lawrence Weick and Tyler Wolff, and you're comparing them to, you know, Danny Musovski, who was a player of the week. I mean, it's that's not the issue. The issue for LAFC is very simple. They have not ever figured it out at goalkeeper, and they made it harder for themselves at center back this season. It's that simple for me, because no matter how many players you have that are great players like a Carlos Vela, like a Diego Rossi, like a Brian Rodriguez, that's great. You're going to leak goals.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to leak goals when you don't have a goalkeeper you can count on, and when you only have one center back you can count on. You're going to give up goals. And no matter how good you are in front of goal, You're going to have games where the attack dries up. Just flat out. You're going to have that. And if you can't defend, you can't win a championship. They won a Supporters' Shield last year, and that was a very impressive accomplishment. They came up short in a knockout game at home against Seattle because they weren't good enough defensively. This year, when you do have the injuries, when you do have the absences, that gets exposed even more. Dejan Jakovic cannot start for a championship-winning team. You can't be turning to Jordan Harvey to bail you out of things over and over again. You can't sort out your goalkeeper, whether it's Cisniego, whether it's Vermeer. It's been back and forth. Neither one has been a guy that you can count on. And then when you get into these situations, you've got midfield talent. You brought in Cifuentes. You brought in Janela to be the next generation. You know, they've been all right. Cifuentes has been good, but, you know, it's not good enough defensively. The rest of it doesn't really matter. They're going to score. They're going to have games where they score 5. They're going to have games where they score 6. They're going to have games where they score 1 or 0. Defensively, if you can't be better, you can't be the top dog who's lifting MLS Cup because the postseason is so different. It just is. I think they're worse this year on paper than they were last year by far because of trading Walker Zimmerman, and they didn't replace him effectively.
Yeah.
That's just me. Anyway. Uncle, I think you had a question, and I think I missed it. So, because I saw the tail end of it, and I didn't catch all of it. So please throw that back in, and hope you're doing well, my friend. Byrne had one from Toodle Rockmon. MLS success determined by an order of importance. 1, spending on DPs. 2, international scouting. 3, great academy. 4, pipeline from USL. Byrne says Atlanta has 1 and 4, will have 3 soon. Atlanta failed this season on 2. If your TAM players primarily ride the bench, then something went major wrong. This has been an ongoing thing, and we can just keep going back and forth on it, I guess. Okay. I don't think Castro is a TAM player, first off. I don't know where Meza and Hossetu are. I would assume that Meza is. I don't know if Hossetu is for sure. Byrne listed those 3 specifically. So, spending on DPs, yes, Atlanta's always going to do that. Pipeline from USL, yes, Atlanta's done that. They've gotten minutes out of that. The academy is starting to produce. You've got George Bello out of your academy. That's worth it right now, straight away. International scouting, Atlanta's been better than most for 4 years. You're going to miss on some guys, first off. Let's stop thinking that every scout's 100%. Even Monchi, as great as Monchi is, has had plenty of misses. Go ask Roma. It does happen. Okay? I don't even know if you have misses yet. That's the thing here. Castro is one that you got on loan, which is a low risk, and it hasn't happened for him. Last night was a huge opportunity for him, and it was all right. Works hard, seems like a good guy. It just hasn't happened for him. Okay. You got him on a loan. You didn't blow any money on that. You didn't have to sign him on a permanent. Hossetu, I think, is a talented player. I think Hossetu's been good this year at times. He hasn't been consistent enough. Meza's a big question, and there's a lot of questions in the Twitch pitch about Meza. Meza started off the season really well. Really well. He didn't look the same in the MLS's back tournament. Then he got hurt, and we haven't seen him. And it seems like Anton Walks has beat him out. And if that's the case, that's the case. Walks has been good, so I don't have a problem with that. Getting Anton Walks is going to be one of the acquisitions of the year to bring him back in as a utility defender who's ended up playing a lot of big minutes for you this year. It's a good get. But if he's beat Meza out, okay, he's beat Meza out. Meza has had things, that injury especially once we got back to the restart, that he hasn't been able to get his spot back. And now Franco Escobar sliding inside centrally as an option to play Brixlin at right back and to play Jurgen Damm at right wing. That's going to squeeze that role even more. And that could easily end up affecting Meza. If Meza's not the guy, and you decide that Escobar is, and you want to play Escobar and Robinson next year together at center back, all right, let's see how you handle it. Let's see how the front office makes the moves work to get that one sorted out. Because that's the most important thing for me. You're going to make mistakes. You don't want to make mistakes that you're tied to with a rock that sinks you for a long period of time. If it doesn't go well, okay, you got to make a change. You got to find a way to get out of that move and fix it going forward. You might have the fix in Franco Escobar playing as a center back. Something that we didn't necessarily expect at this point.
You mentioned activity at the back. I don't know if you've had the chance to peek in on this at all, but Jason Heinley says...
hold. Sorry, Jason. Sorry, Jason. I'll get you in a second. Sure. Uncle, I'm not feeding a next year mentality. I want to make something clear. I think I'm upsetting you for some reason, and I'm not feeding a next year mentality at all. I'm talking about this year because, look, I don't know where that's coming from in terms of a next year mentality. I've heard that from a lot of people. This year, you're trying to get into the postseason and make noise. That's the main thing here. If you want to talk about next year, we can talk about next year. That's fine. But there's still games to play here, too. And that's why I think last night's point is important. Because it keeps Miami behind you. It keeps you in a good spot where you have 2 games at home you can win. You do have to steal something on the road, I think, to be sure of where you want to be getting in. You don't want to just get in as the 10 or the 9 and go on the road in the play-in round. You want to get a home game in the play-in round. So you want to get to 7 or 8, definitely going to need to steal some points on the road against Toronto, against Columbus, against Orlando to do that. It's not going to be easy. But this is the kind of result that you can get there from. I'm not saying chuck it and talk about next year. I haven't said that ever. I would not say that because there's no benefit to that. There's no benefit to outside of giving... If you're going to chuck it and wait till next year, then you're going to be playing George Campbell. Then you're going to be playing Lawrence Weick. Then you're going to be playing every player that you have to make a roster decision on, or you're just trying to get minutes right now. That's not what they're doing. They put a team out there last night that gave you the best chance to win. There are people who question everything that Atlanta United says about injuries. And there are people who are either doing that or saying that Stephen Glass doesn't know how to field a lineup, which is absurd. He would have Franco Escobar in the team if he could have went last night. No question. He said that after the game. He would have Ezequiel Barco in the team if he could go. He doesn't. He doesn't have that, so he's got to figure it out. I don't know where that's coming from. It's not coming from me, and if I'm not being clear in that, let me be clear. This team is not looking to next year right now. Does the front office have to make decisions about the roster for next year? Absolutely. Do they have things written down in pencil? Yeah, sure. That's what any roster, that's what any team does. But are you treating these matches as a look to next year? No. And I don't have that mentality, and I'm sorry if it came off that way. I don't know how it did. I didn't mean for it to, for sure. If it did, it's my bad. Who stays next season and who goes? I think there's still a lot of questions to be answered about that. Mesa's one that we just talked about. If he's not going to be a starter here, and if you decide that Franco Escobar and Miles Robinson is the center back pairing you want, Mesa could go. Castro, I don't think, comes back. We have no idea what's going to go on with Barco. We know he'll go at some point. I don't know if it'll be in the January window. I don't know what happens in the midfield because we don't know if Jeff comes back for another year. I think it's possible because, man, he's a robot at this point with the amount of games he can play and the amount of minutes he can play. But he does still have some humanity in him, and we saw it last night. He got tired. I don't know if he comes back. I don't think he's in as big of a role next year if he does. I don't think all of Eric Remedi, Emerson Hyndman, Mateo Sosetu, and Mo Adams come back because you've added Moreno into that mix, and you could add another piece into that mix. So somebody's got to go from there. I don't know the contract situation, so I don't know who's out of contract, who has an option, and who's in a longer-term contract. I'd assume Hyndman and Hosetu are in longer-term contracts. Adams and Remedi could be going into options or out of contract. That makes it easier if those are the decisions you make. Going further down the roster, Castillo, we'll have to see. He's been a good depth piece, and that was the intention to support Bello, but Bello's your left back. Lennon's your right back. If you want to play Escobar at right back, you've got that too. Dom's not going anywhere. Gallagher, I think, is back. Adam John, it's going to depend on the contract. It's going to depend on Kubo Torres' contract as well. I don't know if both of them come back. Anybody else I missed that we need to talk about?
Don't think so.
I think that's it. If there's anybody else, ask me. Go. What?
Keeper
Brad's he's under contract for a long time. Behind him, I would assume Brendan Moore could be going into an option year. We haven't seen him. We didn't see him with the twos a whole lot, so that's just going to be a decision based off training. Alec Cann's a stable, capable backup if needed. You haven't needed him very much at all. I don't know his contract situation. I don't know if he wants to go try to be a number one somewhere. That could affect it. You do have Ben Lundgaard with some MLS roster experience behind all that at the twos, and you have young goalkeepers coming through like Vicente Reyes, who you could potentially do a homegrown with. I think he's still a year or two away from that. You have Justin Garces out at UCLA, who you could do a homegrown with, and potentially this goalkeeper on loan from Lanús, supposed to join for next year, Novo. So we'll have to wait and see there. If there's any others, ask me, please. But Uncle, I'm not saying a next year mentality at all. If others are, I can't control that. The team's not. I haven't gotten that sense from anybody. I definitely haven't gotten that sense from Stephen Glass.
You mentioned the back, and Jason Heinley said that the MLS fantasy scoring sucks.
It does.
Miles Robinson single-handedly shut down Gonzalo, and it's only worth 3 MLS fantasy points. That's ridiculous. That's his overreaction Thursday.
It's hard, though. I mean, that's the thing about fantasy is, defending so often is either clean sheet or no clean sheet.
Yeah.
For fantasy, if they get forward and contribute anything, then they get points. But are you going to give points for tackles? Or are you going to give points for interceptions? Are you going to give points for blocks or clearances? Because then you could get to where a guy who's on a bad team but has 27 clearances because all he do is sit back and bunker, be the best defender in fantasy, and they're not really the best defender.
Yeah.
So it's tough. That's the thing about fantasy soccer. It's hard to sort out. Okay. Jason Heinley had a question, and I interrupted him, and I'm very sorry, Jason Heinley. Please go forward with your question if John can find it again.
No, that was it.
Okay, cool. Sorry,
yeah.
It's
for now, and then there's probably some other things in the line, but I'm back at the post-match section of the Twitter.
Got it. Okay, what else do we have?
All right, Nick Brawley. My post-game thoughts are that we looked like we were finally figuring out how to create chances as of the second half. I hope it carries over. Very impressed with Torres and Dom. Also, Robinson was in God mode.
Mm-hmm. Miles Robinson's a beast. He will play in Europe. Absolutely. And he should be, if not the first defender on the list for the U.S. men's national team, he should be the second. He should be a starter when the qualifiers start. Assuming he stays healthy, assuming everything continues. Right now, what we've seen from him is back to 2019 form that had him as the best center back in the league. I'm with Doug on that one. I think he should have been the defender of the year last year over Ike Opara. He should be in the national team, but he's taken that form and he's added a little bit to it. He's added a little bit of attitude to it, which is important.
Shiva, after the match last night. Very poor first half from Atlanta. Miami could not take advantage of Atlanta's poor performance. Second half subs made a difference. I want to see more from Dom, please.
He's got to get healthy. I mean, that's the hard thing and I don't know why this is a complicated thing because I keep seeing it on comments and stuff. And Shiva's not saying it. I'm just saying in general, but the conversation around Dom, he started to get healthy. Then he pulled his hamstring. You can't just throw him back out for 90 minutes right now. You don't want the hamstring to go again. And when you go back to why he was in that position, he had played 45 minutes or so at Tigres this season in January through March through the pandemic starting. He knew he was on the way out there. And he wasn't training from when the season stopped until he came to Atlanta. He wasn't training at all. It wasn't even the Moreno situation where he was at least training but wasn't playing games. Jurgen Damm wasn't training with a team. So you can do all the individual work, but as a lot of different managers have said, even that, it didn't accomplish a whole lot during the pandemic. So he didn't come in fit. He hadn't really played much in a year, and it showed. And I think it's hurt him because he hasn't been able to get to that top gear. These past couple of appearances, it's looked like he's been more comfortable to really open up and go at top speed. Whereas before, it felt like he was holding back because he didn't trust it. Those really fast players like that, I think sometimes it's harder for them after layoffs because it's easier for them to pull the muscles in these situations. So they're just holding back a little bit. I think he's comfortable, though, now. It's just, what's he going to be able to give you on Sunday? And you hope that maybe you can get him into a normal role where, yeah, he might not be able to finish the 90, but he can get you deep into the second half after Sunday, after you get that game and then a normal week.
Unite Chop Rise after the match last night, and you've talked about this a little bit. It looks like we desperately need someone who can score goals. I understand we have Joseph and won't ever replicate the output, but when I look at teams like LAFC, they still can score. Do you believe the front office sees this as a need and will attempt to fill it?
You're limited in how much you can fill it with, and that was what I said last night to him. You've got a cap, and you've got to make decisions. And as we've said many times, you've also got to look at the reality of the situation and who wants to come and be a backup to Joseph Martinez, because that's what they will be. Adam John has talked about that. He knew what the situation was here. He knew that he could be something different than Joseph, and that was why he came to Atlanta and from Phoenix last season after he had a great year in the USL Championship. LAFC, for example, their goals come from different positions than the forward. So that opened up a possibility for Bradley Wright Phillips to sign there as a second option behind Diamande, and it became a first option when Diamande left the team. But he knew that he could come into that role and get minutes. Their goals come from Vela, from Rossi, from out wide. Those are the players who are scoring those goals. He adds to that. He wasn't going to come in and just sit the bench behind Diamande. He knew that. So that's a little bit more appealing role. I don't think he would have come here to sit behind Joseph. You can't guess that Joseph's going to get hurt. So that's the challenge. In a perfect world, what you do is you have a young player coming up. And could Jackson Conway be that? We'll have to see. Because you have a young player coming up who understands the role, understands that they're not going to get the bulk of the minutes, but can come in and grow while getting the minutes they get and training and pushing the team in training. Jackson Conway could be that guy, and he could help solve that. You're not going to find a situation very often where you have a starting level reserve behind the best forward in the league. You're just not in a cap league. In a non-cap league, okay, fine, and you got to manage the minutes. But in a cap league, you just have limitations. I'd rather have them spend that money on a player who's going to play more minutes if everybody's healthy.
Nathan Pugh, very early this morning. I haven't been on the side of the team that gets the draw with some smashing and grabbing lately. Overall, I enjoyed the match, and I'm optimistic to get more folks healthy. If they can get in the playoffs, I think they can make some noise. Hashtag Overreaction Thursday.
If they get in the playoffs, they're going to be a difficult team to beat. I don't know what the noise is going to be, but you're going to be able to make it difficult for opponents to defeat you. That's a good spot to be in a knockout. The mistakes still worry me at times. The lack of firepower at times worries me. But, yeah, you've got talent. And if you can get, over this next week and a half, if you can get those talented guys back into where they can contribute, you're in a good position. I want to get to one that Mizano had on the Twitch pitch. Is there a tangible reason our midfield can't string together more than 2 passes? Watching other teams, they can maintain possession and players move to space off the ball to open up passing lanes. Our guys look flat, won't move to give options to the man with the ball. Then we give up the ball in those situations 1v1. Then we have to press up with defense. Lack of training sessions, players not comfortable with each other, coaching tactics. It frustrates me, but I can't explain it. So stringing together passes. Let's get into the way things went last night. Atlanta completed passes at 81%, which is a little below their season average, which is I think they were 3rd in the league coming into it. Let's jump into the midfield portion and just the individuals and see where there could have been breakdowns. So Jeff Lorenowitz, 14 of 17, 82%, so right on the team average. Remedi, 93%, 27 of 29 passing, 3 of 4 on long passes. Hindman, 26 of 29, so 3 incomplete passes. So your midfield with your starters, Jeff, Emerson, and Remedi, had 8 incomplete passes out of Doing the math. 58, 78, 75 passes. Which is pretty good. I mean, the numbers, just completing passes, it's not really the problem. It's completing dangerous passes. It's completing progressive passes. It's moving the ball forward. Hyndman didn't do a lot of that last night. Hyndman, I thought, kind of got lost in the shuffle last night. It wasn't a great night for him. Remedi was better last night, although he did scare me a couple of times. He has a problem at times kind of reading the pace of the game, and he'll get caught in possession. I do agree with the movement off the ball. And I do think a lot of that is down to training sessions. I do think a lot of that is down to the makeshift nature of the lineup you had last night. The movement off the ball has to be better to give those better passing options. The midfield doesn't give the ball up very much. I think that's a fallacy. But do they create a whole lot pushing forward? Not as much as they need to. Moreno can help. Hyndman generally has played better than that. I think Hyndman's taken a lot of criticism this year, and some of it's been unfair. He's been in a very good run of form here lately. You want a 6 who can pick out a ball a little bit better, who's a little more progressive, who can split things and open things up a little more. Moreno will help this midfield in a big way, but they're not lacking the completed passes. I mean, just to get down to the individual numbers there, I mean, it's 8 completed passes out of 3 guys. It's pretty good. Mo Adams, will add him into the mix. Let's see what he did, because he's been very good at passing lately. He's 15 of 15, so he didn't have any incomplete. So add him. That's 8 incomplete passes out of 90 out of your 3 central midfielders. That's pretty good. But what did they do with them is a different conversation. You want, out of all those completed passes, out of 82 of 90 completed passes, you want some of those to be ones that your jaw drops a little bit, that you say, man, look at Hyndman picking out Gallagher on the run. Look at Remedi springing that ball to Castro on the right side and opening the field up. You want some of those mixed in, and you didn't get enough of that. That's where it needs to change. That does come down to movement off the ball. But 82 and 90 is pretty good. That's way above the league average. I'll have to compare it to all central midfielders, but it's way above the league average for team passing. It's just not creating enough going forward. It's not expansive enough at times. That's where it needs to go. I thought Miami did a good job as well of their defensive organization, because when Atlanta didn't move fast enough to get out of their own half, Miami was able to shut that down, and Atlanta then had to go back. And then at times when they went back, they did get quicker, and they did open the game up, but it needed to happen more often. If the midfield can't find those options, they have to move the ball faster, side to side, short passes, to get the holes opening up in the opposition. It can't be just 82 of 90, but it's all slow and it doesn't create anything. It can't be that. There's got to be the next edge. But they're not giving the ball over a ton either in those moments.
Antonio hopes that we can somehow get Kubo, Barco, Moreno, and Dom on together for the run of games after Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, Uncle No Pockets says, we'll basically be a playoff trap game team. It could be. And if you get all these guys healthy, this could look really different very quickly. That's why I do take a lot out of last night, because of the spirit that you saw, because of the work that you saw. Because you got to have that. That's playoff kind of work last night. That's World Cup qualifying kind of work last night, where you are giving up a ton of shots, a bunch of bad shots. I mean, Miami's XG was like 1.5 with their 21 shots from at least one of the places I saw. So, they had 21 shots. They were expected to score a goal and a half. And Atlanta, I think, was expected to score half a goal. So the 21-3 shots thing doesn't really tell you the whole story, but we'll see who wants to use that and who doesn't, because there are lots of narratives going on, and that might dismiss some of the narratives, just saying. You can be a difficult team. You get everybody healthy. You add to what you saw last night, which was pretty good organization, good work, a little bit of nastiness at times. I mean, when Stephen Glass has the shirt untucked on the touchline, I think that tells you all you need to know. Diego Alonso took the suit coat off at halftime. He was riled up. Glassy was riled up. Players were riled up. You can take that, add quality to the top of it, and be difficult in the postseason. Absolutely. We've seen it before. It can happen. You still got work to do to get there.
Couple of points from B. Mildenhall at BNice586 on Twitter. I think this is the first time that B. Mildenhall has popped in. The first 80 minutes was the worst play since Columbus MLS is back. Strange lineup, bad touches. I'll go through the first point and then.
Wow. Okay. Sorry.
It's all good. First 80 minutes was worst play since Columbus MLS is back. Strange lineup, bad touches, and no chemistry. Yes, the team was tired, but besides the center backs, poor performance for a huge game, and there's a point to follow.
Strange lineup. What options did you have? You can't rip the lineup without understanding who's available. And, okay, if you ripped the lineup beforehand because you didn't know the issues, okay, that's fine. And I know there are fans who get mad because they don't know who's hurt and who's not. You don't want to give that information up to your opponents. I understand that. They've got to prepare for everything. If they know you don't have Franco Escobar, if they know you don't have Ezequiel Barco, although they're probably guessing that at this point, if they know you don't have Marcelino Moreno and Jurgen Damm to start, they can prepare differently. You don't want to give them that. That decision's been made. If fans don't like that, I don't know what else to say. But I saw a lot of comments after the game trying to take shots at the lineup. What was the better option? You can't complain about the lineup without saying, well, you didn't have this, you didn't have that, you didn't have this, you didn't have this person fully fit. You couldn't throw Cubo Torres in from the start. It's impossible. He's barely trained. You couldn't throw Jurgen Damm in from the start. He's not there yet. You didn't have that option. So you're having to deal with that. You're having to put the best group that you can put out there. And no, the first half wasn't good. I think the first 80 minutes being the worst since the Columbus game and MLS is back is harsh. Second half was better. Second half had more give and take. I'm looking at something that SofaScore uses. It's one of their things called attack momentum. And there were waves where Miami had it. But again, it wasn't threatening on a regular basis. The second half had more Atlanta swings to it. They didn't create enough. They need to create more. But no, the difference, and this is why I'll say that it wasn't anywhere close to the Columbus MLS's back, is the first half against Columbus, the team looked disinterested. Even when they were getting overplayed here, and they were in the first half, no question, they never looked disinterested. We have to be able to tell the difference. You're going to play at times where, as we said, you don't have it, you've got injuries, whatever. This lineup was weaker than Miami's. No question to start. No question. This lineup was weaker than what they had. And Miami outplayed Atlanta in the first 45. No question about it. But did you see an Atlanta team look like they did against Columbus? No, it's night and day. You can be a team that has less talent, that doesn't have the attacking firepower, but that still fights. And they did in the first half even. Second half, they fought better. After conceding the goal, they were the better team. You don't want to be in that situation. You want to be the better team from the beginning. But that also coincided with Cubo Torres, with Jurgen Damm, with some substitutions, because you had to. Mo Adams came in and gave the team a lift. So there's differences between this. The Columbus game and this one do not even feel like the same team to me because of the fight that was in this group last night. I know fight's a hard thing to quantify, and there's probably not a good stat number for it. There's not an XF, expected fight. Maybe there needs to be. I don't know. Somebody get on that. But it looked night and day to me. It didn't look anything like the Columbus game in the MLS's back tournament.
Second point, B. Mildenhall liked Glass's subs, but why not put them in earlier? Lennon and John were clearly struggling in the midfield, needed new legs.
You have limitations in how many minutes these guys can play. Guys, I don't know how else to say it. It's not FIFA. It's not a video game. These are human beings. Jurgen Dahm's had a hamstring injury. Do you want to blow the hamstring out? Then you're going to blame him for that. Because I've seen it both ways, and it can't be both ways. Can't play Marcelino Moreno too early. Look, see, you can't play the next game. You played him too early. You took a big risk. Can't do that. Well, you got to start Jurgen Damm because he's a great player. You got to start Jurgen Damm. Well, which is it? You can't just pick the opposite one from what the manager does without the information that the manager has and say that I got it right and everybody else got it wrong. You can't do that. These are guys who are playing a lot of games in a short period of time. They're not robots. They can't play 90 minutes every game, especially when they're dealing with injuries. If they had a certain amount of minutes they could play, that's what they had. Period. And no, Brooks Lennon didn't look like he had an issue until he had an issue. He had an issue, and then you made the sub in 5 minutes. Sometimes that's what it takes. Like, I'm sorry, and thank you for the tweet, but there's only so much you can do here. I don't know why everybody thinks they know better than the manager who has more information in front of them on this. The amount of time these players can play right now has limitations. You saw Jeff hit that wall in the second half. He looked exhausted coming off the field. These players have physical limitations. And you can't just keep playing them because you want to or because they're talented. You've got to manage that. And you've got to take all of that into account and put out a lineup that can get you a result. You did that. I don't know. Maybe it's because he's the interim manager, but Stephen Glass knows what he's doing here. And he's doing the best he can in an incredibly trying situation. You're not seeing his team roll over and get pounded by their rivals like the LA Galaxy did last night. Mm-mm. You're not seeing this team quit on anything. 1-1 last night. They lost 1-0 to the Red Bulls on the weekend. Scoreless against Orlando. They beat DC 4-0. They did lose to Chicago with 2 goals in the first half. That was a bad performance in the first 45. They beat Dallas 1-0. That Dallas game is where it felt like it started to shift for this group. And you're 2-2 since. You look at the players you have available and you look at the talent you have available at your disposal. 2-2 with that group right now where you're not getting run out of any game. You ran DC out of a game. You'll take that. You want it to be better, but you'll take that as a foundation. Before we move on, you need to tell us about our friend in Decatur, Steve Apolinsky.
I was going to ask you about that. Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. Wrongful death and serious injury matters. If this is a road that you need to have a discussion on, a couple different ways that you can do that with Steve and Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. You can shoot Steve an email directly, steve@aa-legal.com. You can give him a call and get a free consultation, 404-377-9191, or you can go to their website at aa-legal.com if you don't want to shoot Steve an email directly. Hit enter, hit return, large device or small, whatever advances the screen to their homepage. When the homepage shows up, a pop-up window pops up because what do? They pop up. Therefore, it's a pop-up window. 24/7, 365 and a quarter. You can have a conversation with whoever is at the other end of that pop-up window. Might even be Steve. We don't know. We were never told. So, a couple different ways that you can catch up with them. Recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine. Top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia for wrongful death and serious injury matters. The website is aa-legal.com. And yes, I'm still holding out for the one day where I'm going to do the Summerall hold and just surprise you 20 minutes later with the .com.
No, you do that, your mic gets cut. That's what happens.
Okay, really quick. Other action around the league. Kefsey has a Sporting and Dallas question.
Okay.
Kefsey would like a breakdown of the play that was given as a foul rather than a goal or a red in that game last night, please.
The breakdown is, I guess, all the cameras broke for the VAR. I can understand how the referee might not have seen it from his angle. I don't know if he would have been able to see Mauer's left arm wrap around the attacker and drag him down. But you have VAR for a reason. It's a ridiculously bad moment for the league, again, with a referee to not correct that. Jimmy Maurer just tackles him. And I don't know how that's a foul on the goalkeeper. I have no idea how that's a foul. I do like our goalkeepers. I do like the GK Union. I really do. But you can't, as a goalkeeper, grab somebody and drag them down in front of your goal and get away with it, except in this case.
Daniel Price is in this morning. He says, I'm glad they figured it out in the second half. The attack was so bland in the first half. The come to Jesus talk seemed to work in the locker room. I was disappointed in the last 3 minutes, though. I felt like Dom should have had that one in the net. You miss all the shots you don't take, and that was one he should have taken. Overall, it doesn't really change our route to the playoffs, except don't lose.
He didn't have the shot because of a poor touch. That's the problem. He cut back to his left, and he overhit it. He chopped back with his right foot. It was too hard. It got away from him. From there, he didn't have a shot. Bello was too slow to hesitate. And he needed to get a pass in quicker. So, better touch, you get an opportunity there. But unfortunately, Dom is not sharp right now. He's not, and that's okay. He's not sharp, and you see these things happen. When he is playing his best, you expect more from him. You do. I want to go back to the situation we just talked about with Kansas City and Dallas, because I think we have the bat signal out for a member of the GK Union. Settle down. Stop yelling. You get so excited.
I do.
You're like a kid.
I like it when we have guests.
You're like a kid here at times. Jessica Charman joining us. What's up, Jess?
Living the dream. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I got on a roll, and we went past the top of the hour. I apologize.
It's okay. I was like, you guys are going to forget me. You're talking about goalkeeper union, and I'm sat here.
That's why I remembered
what you were going to say. I was getting worried, Jason.
That's what I remembered. When I get on a rant, you got to just send me a text and say, "Hey, dummy, shut up." All right. Did you?
Hey, I will say that what you were saying. Look, I'm a goalkeeper union member, but moments like that are just a bad commercial for goalkeepers in general that you get. But you're going to take a risk, and at the end of the day, you're conditioned from a young age as a goalkeeper to do whatever it takes to stop the ball going into the net. And if you get away with it, you get away with it. But you got away with those things when I was playing because there weren't video cameras around. You don't expect to get away with it. Now that there are, those ones are crazy to imagine that you get away with.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at that point, Maurer figures, okay, a penalty's better than nothing here, and then the ball bounces back and it's slammed in. I blown away that it doesn't become a penalty. I don't know when the whistle was blown, so that's the thing, is I don't know if you could have let the goal stand. If the whistle was blown, you can't. And at a minimum, it's a penalty. At a max, it's a goal, and not a red. It's not a dog, so I wouldn't give a red there. I'd give him a yellow, but I don't know how it's at a minimum not a penalty.
It's insane to me. But these things happen, and as a goalkeeper, you know what? Sometimes you get away with some crazy stuff.
Well, because you'd rather try to sometimes feel like you need to get away with the crazy stuff, or at least try the crazy stuff, because if you don't try it, then the ball ends up in the back of the net, and sometimes you just have that moment where you just got to say, okay, what the hell, and give it a chance, right?
I think a lot of the time it's conditioned, it's reactions. So we see people that sometimes criticize goalkeepers because early on in a match, they end up getting a red card for bringing a player down, and they're like, well, the goalkeeper should have stood on their feet and they should have just let the goal happen. And it would have been better that you go on 1-0 down, but your goalie stays on the pitch. Well, you have to remember, most of these things happen, and we talked about it last show. A lot of goalkeeping happens in split seconds. It's reaction based, and it's stuff that you're conditioned to do. So it's not as easy as making a decision to not foul them or whatever. You're just doing whatever you can, like you say, John. So yeah, interesting refereeing again, and that's all you can say at this point, right? It's just interesting.
Interesting refereeing.
Yeah, that's the nice way to put it. What'd you think about last night? Maybe What do you think about the quality of Atlanta's performance overall? I think the fight we know, but what did you think about just the way that they performed on the night?
I think fight and grit were the things that we saw that I potentially had been a little critical of in previous matches. We talked on Monday about a game of two halves. It was the other way around on the weekend. This time around, it's the other way of the two halves. I think with the hand that you were dealt before the match, and when you see the lineup based on the players that you have available, I think you take a draw when you compare the two lineups before the match. And I think you're happy with a draw. Did we play the best soccer we played all season? No. Were there some very encouraging moments? Yes. And I think the biggest thing for me that I will take as a positive in that performance was Atlanta United conceded a late goal. And I won't lie, guys. I think I turned to Sebastian and I said, this game has like a 1-0 loss in the 84th minute written all over it. That was just the way I personally felt like it was going. And I'll admit, I haven't had the most faith in our goal-scoring abilities when we go a goal down. So in my eyes, we were never going to come back after conceding the goal. And I'm so glad that we did. The response after conceding the goal is what we had been missing in previous games. Against the Red Bulls, and we spoke about it, I said that I felt like once we conceded, everyone's heads dropped and there wasn't that same positive response. Last night, there was. Last night, you go a goal down against Miami, and Miami are the ones that had to hold on towards the end. You look at the damn opportunity in the last, the death of the match. And I think that's what has to be a really positive thing to take from this match, that you left that pitch feeling, even though you conceded so late on and went down, you left that match feeling somewhat hard done by. You were happy with the point, but you felt hard done by because you almost felt like you deserved 3 points based on those last few minutes. Over the whole 90 minutes, did you deserve 3 points? No. But were you the closest at the end to getting that opportunity? Yes. So it's one of those where there were frustrating moments. I mean, Miles Robinson and Walks saved the team on numerous opportunities. I thought they were both stellar in centre-back. And again, we talked about Glass having some difficult decisions to make with Escobar as well. And you know what? That centre-back pairing, at least we know we have options at centre-back.
Well, and at the same time, Jess, this is a club that hasn't rolled over and just sat there and said, okay, yeah, we're down a goal, we're down 2 goals, let's just go ahead and tank the game, and you lose by 3, 4, or 5. This is a team that hasn't rolled over all season long under Stephen Glass. No,
defensively, no. I don't think we've ever had the floodgates open per se. But what I have thought is once we've conceded, it's looked unlikely that we would get anything out of the game because going forward, we didn't have the options or the positive touch into the area to create those chances. Last night after conceding, it was like something we had been doing a little bit in the second half going forward. We had created a couple of opportunities, but once that goal was conceded, it was all guns blazing, and it took conceding that goal to kind of set that in motion. So I'm very glad with how they responded, and I thought, like I say, for the first time I had a real nice surprise when we responded so positively with the finish. I don't think defensively, we've had issues defensively, in terms of set play defending, in terms of conceding easy goals, but I've never felt like the floodgates have opened and we've looked like you say, John, conceding 5, 6, 7. But when we've conceded, we've never looked potentially like we have a good opportunity to respond positively. Jason, you were talking about the importance of the first goal this week in MLS in general, and I think that's very true. And last night, Atlanta United challenged that mentality, and yes, they didn't get the first goal, but they made things very difficult for Inter Miami in the end.
Yeah, it was the second time this season that Atlanta's gotten something out of a match where they conceded first. It needs to be more than that.
Yeah, terrible statistic.
Yeah, I mean, I think at times people do forget how lopsided those numbers are. You score first, you're going to win a lot. You're going to win a lot. This year, it feels like even more than normal. That first goal is critical. Atlanta in previous years has fought back, and some of that's down to having a player like Joseph having some of the attacking
you were always
talent.
guaranteed a goal. You almost went into matches when you had Joseph, when you had that connection and players that have played together a lot and trained together a lot and that aren't exhausted. you always felt like you had something there. You always felt like you had a goal in you, no matter what, even if you conceded. I think this season it's been a struggle because you have wondered where are the goals going to come from, because they haven't been as much as a luxury as we had got used to as a fan base. Yeah,
it's tough. And I think the players know that. So when you concede, it's like, oh man, we don't have any goals.
Mentally. Yeah. See it. You have seen it in the past in reactions after conceding goals. And last night seemed a little bit different. And maybe it's because it was a late goal. They realized they could. You have to find a balance. When you concede early, you have to find a balance of how much you're going to push forward and leave yourself exposed. When you concede a goal with only a handful of minutes to play, you're in a position where you can take that risk, because if you do concede another one, it's no different. But if you take that risk and push forward, you never know what might happen. And last night it worked in the favor of the Five Stripes.
Okay, on Twitter, PHR Out is in, and the phrasing here, I'll go ahead and say it, but then, Jess, you can go ahead and address it however you want. PH says, thoughts on Goose conceding another easy one?
An easy one? Look, okay, and everyone knows, look, I'll put my hands up there every time that I am someone that is harder on Guzan than your average fan. I think I have been quite vocal in my criticisms in the past. That goal wasn't an easy goal. It was it's a good finish by Shea, a good run, but he's finishing that from inside the 6, if I remember correctly, or just outside the 6.
Yeah.
A professional soccer player from inside the 6 should finish, no matter where the goalkeeper's positioned. I thought his footwork across the goal was fine. He gave himself the best opportunity to save it, but Shea had it on a plate and he struck it well. Now, if Shea had mishit it or not made a great connection, but the ball switches from one side of the pitch to the other, he's got to move across the goal, and Shea is right in front, unmarked. If you're going to look at anyone for that, you have to look at Lennon, who I thought had a decent game, but was caught, like you said earlier, caught ball watching. I don't think, as you have already said, I don't think it was injury related, but I can see why people are making that connection.
Yeah, I can't see.
Just down, and I understand that some would have liked him to have been subbed out. We saw on the television broadcast him make the gesture that he was going to need to come out. So maybe you want to see him come out so that there isn't that half in your mind. But I think a fit Brooks Lennon still doesn't get there because he's caught flat-footed and he doesn't follow the genius run of Breck Shea. And, you can't dislike Breck Shea. I don't think so. I think as you're happy, again, you wouldn't be happy if he scores the goal that leads to you losing, but you're happy he's found somewhere where his style of play fits in and that he's being successful.
So walk people through the goalkeeper's situation there, because I think at times people get hung up on the idea, which is generally accurate, that you concede at your near post, that's a goalkeeper mistake. This is not that situation. It's at Brad's near post, but he's coming across.
Point blank.
Yeah.
I think when you're talking near post, you're talking about someone that's cutting into the box and you've got time to set your feet and you've got time to make that movement. If you get your angles wrong, it's different. If you've had time because someone's driving into the 18-yard box and breaking into your area, or you've had time because it's a slow rolling ball across and you have time to, again, the word we use is set. And when I talk about set, I'm talking about being able to stop your feet moving and get in that position that allows you to move either to your back post or your near post with a dive. Because of the speed that cross comes in and the positioning of Breck Shea, Brad never gets an opportunity to set his feet. So he's taking that dive from a moving position, which is never going to allow him the best technique there. When we talk about near post, it's not point blank. It's not point blank, like I say. You're never expecting. Those are the ones that when we do training sessions, goalkeepers hate, because that, as a coach will say, is a drill for your forwards. That is a finishing drill because you expect your forwards or the people in that position to score that 90 90% of the time, maybe even higher, Breck Shea should put that in the back of the net. It's a good finish. And sometimes a goalkeeper pulls out a worldie. But the speed of reaction there for Brad, even, again, I've been critical of his reaction, and I think as he's got a little older, those have slowed down. But even a goalkeeper in their prime struggles there because the amount of time the ball travels towards you for you to react, near post, far post, wherever that is, that's a forward shot to miss, not a goalkeeper's save to make a mistake on.
As our resident member of the GK Union, what other takeaways did you have from last night's match?
I thought Guzan did pretty good. I thought, his distribution still frustrates me. But again, I think that comes, the more it happens, the more it's a coaching and a stylistic style of play.
What part of it is what I want to get into, because there were a couple moments that I know I mentioned last night in the first half, but what part of his distribution is frustrating?
For me, I think it's, number one, the predictability. It's 99% of the time they're going to pop a short pass to their fullback or whoever's in the box, pop it back to him, and then he's going to split it over to the wing. Now, we've talked about how it's a less risky pass. Yes, it's less risky than down the middle, but we are turning over possession at this point 30% of the time, because if he doesn't, it's not an easy ball to hit. I'm not ever saying that. It's a very, very difficult ball to hit because it's the matter of inches and the matter of degrees in terms of if he doesn't hit that one with the right amount of velocity, he's under hitting it. If he hits it too much, it's straight out of bounds. My thing is, with that sort of ball, you have to be hitting it right 50, 60, 70% of the time to make it worthwhile. Otherwise, you're giving away throw-in after throw-in. And it's becoming predictable in that you're noticing how now you're not catching players in space. You're catching players that have to do a near impossible chest control. It's not an easy ball for the wingers that we're finding to control. We've seen it pop off of chests. We've seen it go into dangerous areas. When it works, it looks great, but it's frustrating to me because it's not working enough. And my concern is, I don't know how much authority Guzan feels that he has. And I've been in this position. I've had a coach that wanted me to do the exact same thing in college, constantly. But you have to find times where you make your own decisions on the pitch and you forgo that, and that you don't force it all the time. You're the player on the pitch at the end of the day. You can only do so much. And if you ignore what you've been told in training sometimes because you think there's an effective ball, you should be able to do that. I just think that at times we're taking too many risks as well with forcing it around the back. Do we need to shift from left to right, back to the goalkeeper, back to the left, back to the right sometimes? Or can we find that long dink over the top? Can we exert the pressure? And then it comes from the fullbacks, but there are a couple of times, I don't know if you noticed, where it's heart and mouth moments where if Walk, and I remember Walk's doing it a couple of times, under hitting that pass and putting Guzan under a lot of pressure, that he did have to clear it long. But you're risking all sorts of injuries there by putting the goalkeeper under that much pressure by not getting that pass right. So, look, I would rather we were... Yes, we want to be a team that tries to play the game the right way, in inverted commas. But what difference is there at times by clearing your back line and turning it over at the halfway line? Or, trying to make that long ball over the top and it goes to the opposition goalkeeper? Is that as ugly soccer as turning it out for a throw-in for the other team inside your own half? I mean, they both, at the end of the day, they both have the same effect. They both change possession, and one of them changes possession in a more dangerous area to allow the team to come back and attack you.
Let's go complete nerd here for a minute, because I think this is an important thing. And Jason Nix, for example, says we almost never play out through the middle anymore. That's the riskiest
That's
situation.
The terrifying bit, particularly when you have players like, Remedy had a good game. I think he did. But I, as a goalkeeper, don't want Remedy checking into me laying the ball to his feet, because he doesn't, I don't know if it's a vision issue with Remedy, but I feel like he doesn't check his two shoulders sometimes. He doesn't know what's necessarily going on behind him. Mo Adams as well did a couple of those.
The Chicago incident with Vermetti,
yeah.
Out of trouble. Like Mo Adams got himself out of trouble several times, but there were moments where Mo turned into a player, turned back into another player, and kept possession. But those don't go your way all the time. And if you're giving away the ball to a player, a midfielder checking in, your backs are already out of position, you're giving them a straight shot one-on-one with Brad. So unless you trust that player is making a run from the pocket, they check their shoulders, they're both, they're both clear, then you can play it. But that one is heart and mouth moment. And we saw it wasn't, that exact pass we saw against the Red Bulls, but it was something similar that led to the corner that led.
Yeah, it happened a couple of times because I had bad visions and flashbacks of the situation that we've seen too often this season when they do try something different. I think option one is always going to be to try to build up out of the back. I think option one is always going to be play off a goal kick, play short, play to your center back, try to combine your way out, try to get out down the flanks because it's less risky than get out through the middle. Okay, that's always going to be one. Two is that ball to the flanks around midfield into the middle third where if you overhit it, it's a throw, you're not in danger, you do concede possession. If you make it work, you can then get out and combine down the flank, and we've seen that. The option three that we've seen too often that terrifies me is that ball with your outside backs pushed up high, not into the other half, but
into
to midfield. Yeah, into that pocket where if you don't connect on it, you're giving the other team a 3v2. At least. That's the one that scares me.
Sometimes, like I say, if it's going to the wrong player or it's going to a player that has too much confidence on the ball at times or isn't checking their shoulders, you're still risking the turnover. And we've seen it this season.
Yeah.
We've seen it this season where players have been bodied or they've been out-strengthened. And that's all it takes. If you're not preparing for that contact, if you haven't checked your shoulders, and I hate to keep going on about Remedy because I do think he had a better game, but there are moments where I just feel like he doesn't have this season and last season. Like he's had wonder seasons, let's be honest. He was brilliant his first season. Mm-hmm. There's just moments where he doesn't seem to be as aware of the big picture of the game. And maybe that comes from his teammates because let's be honest, as a goalkeeper, I have a responsibility to let him know, hey, left shoulder, so that he spins outside or turn out. Like that is my role as a goalkeeper so we have to look at other things in terms of communication. But there are moments in that match which must have you on the mic in heart palpitations because people spin and turn into trouble pretty often.
It's too risky in that spot. And that's why when you talk about the way you build out, you've got to make a decision and you've got to commit because you can't get caught in between. And I feel like that's the ball that's caught in between, where you're trying to play long but not too long. You're trying to get your outside backs forward because you want that to be a threat. But if you mishit it, it's too risky. And that's the one that scares me.
You don't have the bodies behind the ball to recover.
Right.
And while we have some speed, where you're placing your backs out wide and out of position, you would have to be, damn times 100 to be able to get back behind the ball and be effective in defending. And while Guzan, I favor him on one-on-ones. We know that's one of his strong points too. There's only so many one-on-ones, and I can't watch him. I can't watch him getting mad at his defenders like any more than we already have, because he has moments where I think the vein is going to pop out his forehead lately.
It's tough because you don't want to be a team that just says, all right, we can't do this. Let's just play long. Just play long, just concede possession.
It's ugly, and it's, again, we talk about turnover rate. If you pop it into that halfway, you're seeing what, a 50-50? It's a 50-50, let's be honest. And I'm going to favor my defenders or an opposition's defenders in the air over our forward line at the moment.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is you don't really have that option too well.
No.
So you have to try to build out of the back. I think the biggest thing that has to change is the speed at which you do it.
Yeah, and because as it's become more predictable now, it has to be faster. You have to counter the fact that teams are expecting you to do it and are pressing you, and putting you under pressure, you have to counter that by doing it quicker instead of making it real obvious. Like there are moments where it's like they look up. He looks at one side of the pitch, he looks at the other side, and then it's like, oh, okay, he's going to shape his body and he's going there. You give the defenders too much of an opportunity to come in, and our wingers also need to do a better job at times of step into the ball, because I don't know if you've noticed, there's a lot of times where they're waiting, and someone's able to sneak in front. And so with that sort of ball, you can't be flat-footed, you can't be caught waiting for the perfect delivery. You have to come meet the ball, because Brad's not going to hit it perfectly. 20% of the time it's going to be a perfect ball. A lot of the time it's going to require you moving out of position somewhat, and you have to be on your toes and willing to move, because otherwise you're allowing the defender the easier opportunity to read the ball, because they're front facing, you're back facing.
Yeah, the way you can make up the gap for, you can't play long because you're not built that way. You're never going to be built that way. Even with Adam John up top, you're not really built to win the second ball a lot.
Because he's not. No. Even in that position, he may be big, but that's not his strength.
No,
really.
he's honestly in some ways a winger in a forward's body. You know, he likes to get out wide. He likes to find some space.
He doesn't like. It's like he isn't conditioned. He's that tall guy that didn't want to be Peter Crouch, conditioned for being tall, you know? He's like, I'm going to do everything possible to not be the tall hold-up player.
Yeah, it's a weird one, and you don't really have the players built to win the second ball either, so you're built to control possession, and you've got to be able to do that. And I think at times some of the conversation about sideways passes and backwards passes, they've always been there, but the pace and the decisions being made quicker, the decision-making pace and the actual pace of the delivery has slowed down right now, and that's what's making it less effective.
And yeah, exactly, it's less effective and more risky, because in the past, in our previous years, we've been taking the same risks in terms of the balls across the 18-yard box, but they've been hit crisper. They've been hit more effectively to players who seem more alert and ready for them potentially, which is, I think, why we have had in the last 2 seasons more heart and mouth moments with those balls across the 18 and back to the goalkeeper.
Jess, let me ask you this, and this is for those of us who watch goalkeepers and don't have the CV that you do. Just in general, I mean, not in 99.9% of us have never, done anything goalkeeping wise between the sticks in a game that has any meaning. When the ball ends up in your hands, offense is coming at you, something happens, you fall on it, you make a save, it's played back, and you get to start play. How much information are you processing in an incredibly short period of time between the time that the ball ends up in your gloves and the time that you release it back into play? What's going on between the ears to try to make sure that you're getting the ball back into play?
I think that's a great question. There's a lot. In short, there's a lot going on, and I think that's why you see sometimes, unless you're going to start the play very quickly because you've already made that save. And here's the thing, to put it like, if it's an easy save, a lot of the time you're already thinking about where you're going to distribute the ball. You're trying to get that quick breakaway set up early. That's a risk because, and it's happened to me one time, I remember it very clearly, but if you're thinking too far ahead, you take your eye off the ball. And that's when we see a lot of errors for goalkeepers take place, because they're so focused on getting the ball started. But if we have an easy take, we've already processed, okay, my fullback is over here, or I want to bowl it there. I'll get that started real quick. On the flip side, if it's a complicated save and you see these goalkeepers taking time on the floor, and it's not because they're 2-0 up in the 80th minute. Now that's a different kettle of fish. That's because you're time wasting. But there are times where you're taking those extra few seconds while you're on the ground to process, because once you get up on your feet, the referee's starting that 6 seconds. And let's be real here, it's not really 6 seconds. We're looking at more 10, 11 seconds. But still, the clock is started, and you have that in the back of your mind.
Except in an Olympic semifinal between the U.S. and Canada.
Oh, my God. How many seconds what was the count on that one?
I think it was like 6.5. There had been a few long ones, but still, that was insane.
No, that's harsh. I mean, 6 seconds isn't as long as you think to make these decisions. But firstly, you've got to think about giving your players enough time to get into the position you want them to be in for your distribution. Do you want them to be wide? Do you want them to be up? Do you want them to be inside? Then you've got to make the decision of where are the forwards pressing? Is this a risky pass? Is this not a risky pass? And then you've got to make the decision, am I planning to go long? Am I planning to punt? Am I planning to bowl it out? For me, the best thing you can do is, and you see it all the time, if you've checked both your shoulders, because we've seen some horror shows of this one too, lay it down on the ground. It gives you enough time, as long as you know you're not going to invite that press. But you're hearing 4, 5, 6 things that you're thinking about. You're thinking about your defenders. You're thinking about your forward line. You're thinking about the risk factor you're putting in. You're thinking about whether you had time to make that quick break. And it's hard because you're taking that risk. Yes, we like to get the play started quick. Everyone would love to see a goalkeeper distribute fast and get the forward motion going quickly. It's not always possible like that, because if you do that and it's the wrong time to do it, you've actually then created more problems for yourself. And sometimes we're damn tired. Like, people don't realize this. Goalkeeping is exhausting.
Yep.
Making a save is exhausting. Like, one save is very physically demanding at times. You know, it's like doing 3 burpees in a row very quickly when you think about it. So at times you might see, as a crowd or a fan or even players on the pitch, that get annoyed at their goalkeeper for not bowling it out, but they know they need to be in the best physical recovery before they release that ball out. So at times as a fan, we have to bite our tongue just because we from up in the crowd can see that, oh, this player's free. Why didn't he bowl it over to him to get things restarted? It wasn't the right moment for that goalkeeper to take that risk. So
let's get into, before you leave us, let's get into just a glimpse at Toronto on the weekend. Everything from Toronto FC flows through Alejandro Pozuelo, their number 10, their playmaker. It's all about him. I think he's the MVP of the league this season. So knowing what we know about Atlanta, knowing that Jeff Larinowitz had to come out here in the second half.
He was exhausted.
He was gassed.
He was, from the start, it was how long are you going to get out of him, right? It was a tough one. Yeah,
he fought through it in the first half, but after you came back out, after him cooling down, he couldn't get going again. He didn't have it. So you don't know how much he's going to have on Sunday. How do you deal with a team that we haven't seen in a while that plays this way, to be honest, that plays through a number 10, a consistent guy on the ball in the middle of the park in Pozuelo?
See, I think you guys made a real good comment earlier about how we needed a bit more nastiness in the midfield. And I don't condone being a dirty team, but I think you have to leave your mark early on and make sure, like a player like he knows that he's not going to be given time on the ball to distribute. He's not going to be given time on the ball to turn and see the rest of the pitch. You guys, I think, mentioned Mo Adams being one of those players that is a bit more chippy, has a little bit more of that in him.
A little bit. He did it with Matuidi last night. He got in his face a bit.
A little bit nastiness. I think we have to be a nastier team at times against a player like that. I think we see it happen a lot to our team when we have our DPs playing and people are getting mad at that. And sometimes you have to play that way to switch things up. I'm not saying we should go into this game with an ugly mindset, but I think...
I thought that's what you were saying, actually.
I think there's a difference between being physical and being ugly about it.
Yeah, but I do think a couple of little late tackles, leaving a bit of chippiness, not trying to hurt someone, but just letting them know that you're there. Maybe picking up a yellow card, not too early on. You know, the 8-minute yellow card yesterday was a little bit of a nerve-wracking one for Remedy, but being smart with your fouls, but allowing people to let you know that you're there is a good way to shake up a player. And I think if you allow Toronto to find their momentum, that's when you're in trouble. If you allow them to start playing the way they want to play and find rhythm, I think you have to disrupt that rhythm and not concede early and just be a little bit chippier, a little bit nasty. We see some nastiness from Miles Robinson when it gets through. He's a good physical, player who will leave his mark. I think leaving your mark on this game physically, maybe a few little bruises, wouldn't be a bad thing. I
think that's a good point. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Well, like I said, sorry I got on a rant. I missed our top of the hour for our ad read and everything. It happens. I was fired up after last night's game.
It's passion. We'll take passion every day, and I'm glad to be here. And Monday should be good as well.
Yep. I told Mike after the game last night. I mean, once we went to our commercial break after the final whistle, I said that was fun. Like, that was fun to call because it had everything in it, except you didn't have all the star power and the beautiful play. You didn't have that, but it had drama to it to me.
And some heart. Like I said, I think it had heart and grit. And what could have been a really anti-climax of a finish when we conceded ended up being the moment that kind of took that match to the next level and gave it that feeling of, I didn't turn off my TV feeling bummed out. I turned on my TV feeling like, okay, that's what I want to see. I want to see a team that can respond to conceding a goal and can take it on the flip side and leave LGP on the floor. Sorry, I had to get that out there.
Oh, it happened. It happened. Figal got thrown one time by John. He got left in the dust by Jurgen Damm, and then LGP tried to draw something, and then Damm cut LGP back, and he ended up on the ground. It's good to see. This is a good little rivalry with Atlanta and Miami. It's going to be fun when they play again next year. It just won't be 27 times in one season, so it'll be good. But, Jess, we'll talk to you on Monday after the Toronto match. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
You too. Good. All right, we got a bunch of stuff to touch on from around the league and just around the world as we wrap up. We've probably got a few more tweets and comments in the Twitch pitch. We're not going 3 hours. Don't even get your hopes up. Don't even think about it. It ain't happening.
You have to stop talking for a while.
No, I'm good and riled up. That's
You're
fine.
Fired up now?
I'm fired up. I'm finally awake. I've had a good bit of mate in me now, so it's all good. But we're not going to do that because we got to have you come back later. I'm just saying. Okay. So let's look at the MLS front from last night and what happened in the league. The shock of the night was Cincinnati defeating Columbus. Cincinnati, who I was a huge underdog last night. Gigantic, huge, massive. They got the win on Columbus. I did not see that one coming.
I did not see that one coming either, and the fans decided that they weren't going to put any banners in the Bailey for the first time.
Yeah, look, that's nonsense. I'm sorry, I don't like that approach. I understand when a club is running itself into the ground or an owner is not doing, they're not filling the responsibility that they have. Look, Cincinnati is not even through their second year, and you're talking about withholding support because you don't like something. That's not going to fly.
No.
You don't prove your support by doing that. You have to earn that opportunity, in my opinion. Cincinnati has had, how many home games in front of fans in their lifetime in Major League Soccer? 18?
Yeah.
Really? This is where we're at? The team's not all that good. Seriously, they got it wrong last year. They've started to fix it, but they still have a lot of work to do. Jaap Stam hasn't even been there for a whole year, and you're already going to do that? That it sets up for a bad relationship in the long term. It is not the way to go forward. I don't think at all. That needs to change, in my opinion. The club needs to figure out how to make it change because ultimately it's them who are going to benefit from a good relationship with your supporters, but also the attitude and the expectations, I think, from what being a supporter is in that case, that feels completely out of place. You're going to withhold and say, we're not going to put banners up because we don't like the direction? Okay. Don't jump on board when the direction's good. You can't have it both ways.
Nope.
That's the whole point about support. That's why the argument is about we're not fans, we're supporters. You support. When do teams need support the most? When they're struggling. That's when they need support the most. That's when you need to be louder. That's when you need to have more banners. That's when you need to rally around these players who are playing their asses off for the shirt. They need that support. You can say you don't like the roster build. You can say you don't like the manager. You can say all these things, whatever. You watch a game. You can, even in a bad game, pick out a player or two who is dying for the shirt. You're going to get more when you show them the support. You don't get more out of a team by withholding banners. They didn't win last night because you withheld banners. That's craziness. I've said it before about Columbus. I am not 100% convinced by the Crew. Burns said Cincinnati was the better team, other than the last 15 minutes after some bad subs. Cincinnati had a rotated lineup for sure. I don't know all of their injury situation at the moment. Let's see. You did not have Nagbe in the team last night at all. You had a midfield that was Fatai Alashe, Artur, Pedro Santos. You had Luis Diaz, who didn't play well. You had Emmanuel Boateng on the left wing, who didn't play well. Jossie Zardes started. Mensah and Keita were your center backs. Valenzuela and Awful. You had your back line. You don't have Eloy Room right now. You have Andrew Tarbell. So they were missing some pieces, like everybody is right now, but they shouldn't be losing to Cincinnati, and they shouldn't be getting kind of played off the park by Cincinnati. Nick Hagland appears to have been the man of the match for Cincinnati, at least in terms of ratings. He had a goal, he had 7 clearances, he had 3 interceptions, he had a couple tackles, 2 blocked shots, won 10 of 12 duels. That's pretty good for your center back right there. So Cincinnati gets the win there. Columbus still has to convince me. Toronto and Philadelphia are better. Philadelphia had struggles last night as well. Toronto had struggles last night as well. Toronto needed to hold on after conceding a goal to Atlanta United's friend Caden Clark. He's got 2 goals in 2 matches for the Red Bulls. I think he's the 3rd player in club history to do it. It was another great goal. I don't know. Matt Doyle mentioned it on a podcast about this clause in the contract for RB Leipzig. The Red Bulls haven't announced that. I don't know if they would, but you see why they went out of their way to go get him. He's a talented young player, and he delivers again. And your top teams in the East yesterday all failed to win. I think your top 9 teams in the league, period, failed to win. That's what's crazy about this season. Montreal and New England. New England won on the road / neutral site. Kind of a wild one with a lot of early goals in it. Who had them? So New England,
Bunbury, Sidic, all scored in the first half. It was 2-1 New England at the break, and then Buksha scored in the 52nd, and Balu Tabla scored in stoppage time.
Yeah, so New England took the early lead. They held on and got the 3-2 win. Toronto 1-1. Orlando and New York City 1-1. Nashville. And I think I've been blamed for this. Let me make sure who's blaming me. Jason Nix is blaming me. Okay. Nashville scored 3 since I openly questioned their scoring ability. I wasn't the only one. Man. I don't have that kind of power. Hani Mukhtar, I guess, got mad about it, and he scored twice. He's a talent. I really like Hani Mukhtar as a player. He's a designated player in this league. Maybe he's not at the same level as some other designated players. He's a good player. They also, and this is the most important thing about Nashville last night, is they got 20 minutes out of Yonder Cadiz. If you get him in and you can continue to build on this, all right, then you're not going to be limited as much in the attack. They've got a lot of interchangeable pieces. They went with a different formation last night, too, and I haven't watched this one back yet, so I want to see how effective it was. You can call it a 5-4-1. You can call it a 3-4-3. It was 3 center backs, which is the important thing, and Walker Zimmerman wasn't one of them. It's Jack Mayer, the draft pick. It's Jalil Anibaba. It's Dave Romney, and they got the job done. That's impressive. That's an impressive result for Nashville. Other games, Philadelphia needed a bomb from Mark McKenzie to equalize. What a goal for him. 2-2 against D.C., who showed some fight. Yamil Assad scored on a penalty. Dallas with the 1-0 win after the tackling job inside the 6-yard box, which made no sense. Real Salt Lake held on. They scored 2 early. They got a 2-1 win over Portland. I jinxed Gio again. It seems to always happen. Vancouver held on to beat LAFC after 2 early goals. They win 2-1, and the Galaxy were humiliated at home by San Jose, who is back to being the good San Jose. We'll see how long that lasts. What else stood out to you about the night in MLS?
Obviously, the Vancouver win stood out. It seems like the late stuff stood out to me more than anything. San Jose just embarrassing the Galaxy. Vancouver with the win over LA. Nashville was at 3 goals in 9 minutes to get out to the 3-0 lead, and by the 23rd you get the win there. And then Cincinnati knocking off Columbus 2-1, and that was the highlights for me.
Jarrett Smith is yelling about the San Jose Earthquakes in the chat. I'm asking for how long because, man, it's just weird. It's so weird for the San Jose Earthquakes this season. Yeah. Okay, worldwide stuff. The Project Big Picture looks to be fizzled out, which isn't a shock because there were only 2 teams really, really pushing for it. The rest of the Big 6 were probably like, yeah, that sounds good. The other 3 they dragged in were like, okay, cool, we'll join that party. And then you still needed 5 votes, and you weren't going to find them. So who's going to bail out the EFL? That is still a question. There are some reports that the EFL had turned down a bailout package that was more of a loan than an actual bailout from the Premier League. You have to convince the Premier League to give up money. Yeah. They don't want to give up money. Mm-hmm. You have to give them something, or they're not going to give up money. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is ultimately. I was very excited to see the announcement that professional football will restart in Argentina on October 30th. You've got teams that have been playing friendlies, but the Copa de Liga Profesional de Football is going to get started. It's like a mini league that'll go through, I think, the final set for the end of January, and then the full season will start at the end of February for next year. They're going to move into a calendar format similar to MLS in a calendar year. This will be fun. It's like 2 stages. You've got 6 groups of 4. The top 2 will go into one tournament. The bottom 2 in each group will go into like a consolation bracket, but they'll have a chance to play for a Copa Sudamericana spot. So they'll, even if you finish last in your group in the first round, you can get into the Sudamericana through it. So everybody's going to have an opportunity here. In the top half of the bracket, who goes into the other side, the winner of this competition will get a spot in the 2021 Copa Libertadores. And I thought one thing that was really interesting that they did that I've never seen done before. You know how we've seen situations where a team has, in the U.S., has won the Supporter Shield and won MLS Cup. So they would have got 2 spots in the CONCACAF Champions League. It just goes down to the next team in the table. That's not how this is going on. So if Boca, for example, because they won the league, they're already in the 2021 Copa Libertadores. If they win this competition, they don't just bypass them and it goes to somebody else. They get a spot in the 2022 Copa Libertadores. So if they win this, they'll get another spot in the Libertadores another year. I kind of dig that. We'll keep you posted with scheduling and all that. You can watch these games on Fanatiz, ftz.co/soccer down here. Go and subscribe. Go and get a free trial. October 30th is when the first division will be back. I know TIC will have some of the friendlies between now and then. They've also got some of the second division friendlies. The second division's madness. It's like basically the team that was doing the best in the season that didn't get completed, they're going to get promoted into next year's league that'll start in February. Everybody else is going into some kind of a mini tournament to play off for more promotion spots because, welcome to madness. It's Argentina. And one tip for the Argentine FA, when you're going to do the conversation with the media to say, hey, we're coming back. We followed all the health protocols. We've respected the health norms. We have the opportunity to play again. Don't do the camera shot where it looks like you're behind bars in jail. They were behind the gate, and they're trying to keep the distance from the media. I understand that. It's all about the social distancing. But the way the camera was shot for TIC, it looked like Claudio Tapia was in jail speaking to these people. It was crazy. And when you have so many different FA presidents, like the Bolivian one, who I think is still on the run, by the way. You have these guys in jail. Don't do a shot that they can then twist and make it look like he's in jail.
Ray Bar Hotel.
Man, craziness. Chris Ashley is telling us that Orlando sends $50 in GAM to Montreal for a 2020 international slot. I think it's 50,000, which is the standard. But $50, that's cool. I wonder what $50 in GAM would get you in this league.
Wow. That's a good question.
I mean, it doesn't even get you a new pair of boots.
Or some sodas out of the soda machine, something out of the snack bar.
What snack bar is you going to for $50, man?
I'm just like, it's like a gift card. You know, you go in, you sit there and you swipe the card. You have $37 left on your card. You have $37 in allocation money left on your card here at the snack bar.
Chris Ashley, you're the one who said $50. I mean, I'm just saying. Yeah, you reported it. I didn't even give you the breaking news sounder because it's $50. It's not worth the breaking news sounder. You can get some candy corns, that's true, and then throw them in the trash because they're garbage.
Attaboy.
How about that? I think Jason Nix. I think you're the candy corn guy. Jarrett Smith.
No.
I don't even know if $50 in GAM gets you the hotel minibar, Mazzano. I don't know if it helps you with that.
Oh, and Chris Ashley's on the clock for his weekly visit.
Wow, Chris Ashley says $50 in GAM could probably buy you Dom Dwyer.
Yeah. Depends on which team.
Oh, no, he just didn't.
Yeah, he just did.
We're getting into the Halloween candy next week instead of the juice boxes. It'll happen. And I will have all the candy corn slander for Jarrett Smith, for Nick Alifi, for Jason Nix, for all of y'all.
Yeah. What was the meme that was put out? A picture of candy corn, and they divided the colors up, and it's like you eat the top of the pyramid, and then you realize that the only thing that's good about eating the top part of a piece of candy corn is the fact that you can throw them away and just go and eat Reese's.
No, you don't eat any of them. You take the bag and you look at it, and then you throw it in the trash, and then you pick up the Reese's.
Right.
You don't bite any of it. It's all gross.
It is.
Sorry, I'm being very, very rude to the candy corn. I'm taking frustrations out on candy corn, but I don't like that stuff.
It's rightfully so. I'm not a candy corn person. I'm not a candy corner.
Yeah, but John, you're also not necessarily the side of the food conversation that I want to be on here.
Sorry, I agree with you in this one about A, the candy corn, and B, the Reese's.
That's upsetting. Well, the Reese's one, okay, that's fine, but yeah, I'm questioning it. But yeah, I don't like Peeps either. I'm with you, Unc. I don't like Peeps.
I don't do Peeps. No, Peeps.
What else did we throw into this?
Funny.
Peeps are gross. Circus peanuts, yep, they're gross. I'm with you.
Gross.
Yes, you look good in a bowl. Taste? What taste? That's about right. I am absolutely a hater when it comes to candy corn. I will be that guy. Jarrett wants to know if you can put salt on candy corn.
Even more for me, and even more of a reason for me not to have it.
Thad Dooley, Reese's are great. I will defend John on this one. Reese's, pretty much every product that Reese's has ever made is outstanding. I'm trying to think of one that I don't like. And I can't come up with one.
The odd flavor, like they'll come up with like some oddly flavored Reese's for a holiday or something.
What are oddly flavored ones?
Like wintergreen or something.
I've always said Reese's Alex Pacine. I'm sorry. That's how I was brought up. What are we supposed to just say? Reese's?
Reese's.
I've always said Reese's.
Reese's peanut butter cups.
Reese's.
Let me get into Twitter here so we can...
I even like the white chocolate Reese's.
I like Zero Bars, though. Zero Bars for me are tremendous.
Why are you even bringing up Zero Bar? Like, where did that come from?
You mentioned white chocolate.
Okay. Reese's
Bart.
anything. Yes, Uncle. Thank you. Okay, let's try to finish on Twitter. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No worries. Hashtag Overreaction Thursday, and this is from Bart. Investigate our training strategies and sports science team. Why can't we get a healthy DP? Something's not right with all these knocks, but for real, we need to figure out why our better players are picking up injuries in training.
Yeah, I know. It's the new narrative. Now it's the physical team, which I think has changed with the different coaching staffs because you're getting into a bunch of different conversations. Is it the technical staff side of it that is influencing it? Is it sports science? Is it the medical team? It's not just one, and it's not been the same people in all of those categories across the board over the years. So I know it's the new narrative, and it's going to be one that's going to be the hot new seller. I get it. I understand. Marcelino Moreno is a different conversation. He's played one game. So he couldn't make the turn quickly enough. That happens. There's not much you can do there. Jürgen Damm hadn't played very much before he arrived, and he pulled a hamstring in a game. There's nothing you can do about that. It's not about the training with that. The Miles Robinson one has had, I don't know this year if it's had anything to do with the training here or if it's related to last year. I don't know. But, yeah, Robinson's had some issues. The knock in training, I'd like to know with Barco, if it wasn't training. And I'd like to know if it's a contact injury, which is going to happen. That one I don't know. And again, the team's not going to tell you because they don't want to give the opponent any advantage. And that's the decision they've made. I don't have a problem with it. I understand that people do. Okay. I don't know what to tell you because it's not going to change. So the part about this, yes, you always want to evaluate if there is something you are doing about your training that is leading to more injuries. You've had a lot of different injuries here, and I don't know if they're all related to training. The Escobar one, it was said by Stephen Glass last night that he had something coming out of the Red Bulls game. The Jürgen Damm hamstring was pulled in a game, and we knew he was trying to get fit. Cubo Torres, I think the knee injury was in a game. The Barco one's the one we don't know. The Joseph one was in a game. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's on the staff that has changed a bunch over the years and they just have never gotten it right or not. I don't think so. But, yeah, that's something you're going to evaluate. If there's something you can do to change the training that will allow you to not have injuries, that'd be wonderful. I don't know if it's necessarily possible.
How Now Brown Cow at B. Spinelli says, what's going on with Fernando Meza? Remember him?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said earlier, he started really well. He didn't have a good MLS's back tournament. He got injured right after the restart. And Anton Walkes has played really well. I don't know if there's really a story to it outside of Anton Walkes beating him out. It was mentioned in the Twitch pitch, and I do not remember who said it, and I have not heard the podcast yet that Miles Robinson had with the FTC podcast, the For the Culture podcast, and Robinson talked about the relationship with Anton Walkes. If it's down to chemistry, if it's down to that chemistry and that communication being strongest with that pairing, now we'll have to see how Escobar fits into it, but we've seen Escobar and Walkes have good chemistry. The Red Bulls match, they had good chemistry. So is it just down to chemistry? It happens sometimes. And I don't think Meza is a bad player by any stretch, but if he's getting beaten out and he lost a spot due to injury and he hasn't won it back yet, that's where you are. And I think the idea of seeing him as a 6, it's something that I wouldn't have minded seeing. I don't know if they've looked at it in training, but they haven't done it. I don't think it's going to all of a sudden happen now. You do have Jeff at the 6, which I think is your first option going forward as long as he's healthy, and Mesa's on the outside looking in. He's got to wait for the opportunity like Remedi got last night, and he did well. The opportunity that Mo Adams got, who did really well when he came back into the team. The opportunity that Manuel Castro had last night, and he didn't really make the impression that he needed to. Meza, when he gets the call, he's going to have to make a good impression to keep getting the call.
Antonio says, y'all going to kill Longshore on these lineup hot takes. Facepalm emoji. Literally nothing else was available last night, folks. We were lucky to have what we had compared to the Red Bulls game.
Yeah, it's easy to not have all the information and throw a bunch of shade at a manager or at the lineup when if you don't have Escobar, if you don't have Dom for 90 minutes, I've always said this. I'm pretty simple in terms of how much I'll play somebody in that situation. Dom's not 90 minutes fit. Okay. Then my conversation comes to, can he play 60? If he can play 60, I would start him. If he can't play 60, I'm not going to start him. I'd rather have him be dangerous at the end. you could argue, and I'll listen to you for sure right now with 5 subs, that bar should be 45, not 60. Okay. Potentially, yes. If you decide, all right, we're going to split it, he's going to play 45, Castro's going to play 45. That's what we can get out of it. Okay. I'm not going to disagree with that. But generally, if you can't play 60, you're coming off the bench for me. Because I don't want to have to make a first half sub. I don't want to think you can play 45, but then only be able to play 30.
Yeah.
And have to blow a sub. That's a problem. Because 60 gives you the ability, all right, look, we don't think you're going to be able to get into the second half. We're going to make the sub at halftime. Cool. That's kind of my bar, and I don't think Dom's ready to give you 60 right now, so he can't start. Kubo's definitely not ready to give you 60 right now, so he can't start. Uncle talking about what I just said about Castro says he's yet to impress. I'll agree. He's gotten in good moments, but he hasn't made the most of it. I don't think he's back after the loan ends. Uncle says Josetu hasn't impressed. I think that one's a little more up for debate. I've been impressed in spurts with Josetu, more than Castro. I think Josetu has a future, and has a good future. I think he's got to get consistent with time right now. And now he's got to battle for time, because Hyndman has come on, and Hyndman has won time, and Marcelino Moreno is here, and that's going to cut the availability. So now it's going to be down to who forms the best partner for Marcelino Moreno, and if Josetu gets an opportunity because Hyndman either gets hurt or gets tired and has to come out, Josetu's got to make the most of it. He's got to step up because the situation's changed. But I've been okay with Josetu. I haven't been as concerned there. Castro, you bring him on loan to see what you got. He hasn't shown enough to continue, I don't think. Last night was maybe one of the last opportunities for him, and it was a big one, and it just wasn't good enough.
Uncertain Times says Castro looked comfortable for a change and did a good job of drawing fouls and helping to escape pressure. Never got to being dangerous. Our nines have continued to come back to the ball and more chemistry on runs off that I think will create more chances in the future.
It wasn't bad from Castro. It wasn't good enough. You needed him to make you say, well, wait a minute, he's got to play more. Or wait a minute, we've got to purchase him. And it wasn't that good. That's the issue here. Just needed more. Just needed a little bit more. It wasn't there. It happens sometimes.
A lot of compliments on Jess hopping in on the show this morning and folks wanting to have more of Jess on the show. She
has a job, and it's hard sometimes to pull that away. I look, also, a couple of things on that in general. It's not necessarily easy to host the show and try to keep my train of thought and try to reply to different people and bring guests on and manage availability and all that. That's tough. Also, it's not easy to consistently have availability from guests because most people have a job and are not always available or not consistently available or stuff comes up. So it can be a challenge. I wish we had it easier. I wish we were like a radio station where it's, hey, I want this person or this person or this person. Get it done, producer. Our virtual producers don't have that ability.
Yeah.
So it's tough. And I mean, Jess has got a life too. So she's trying to carve out a little more time. You know, we want to get her on more and make it work. It's just availability and it's just logistics. So we're doing the best we can. You know, that's all we can do.
A couple more on Twitter. Rich Ransom's in this morning, and he says about the USL/MLS teams. If the MLS Reserve League is going to be under 23, does that mean the MLS under 23 teams in USL League 2 leave that league as well?
No, they're different things because USL League 2 is amateur. Players can maintain college eligibility there. They can't play in a D3 professional league and maintain their college eligibility. So it would be the exact same thing as the USL Championship and USL League 1 teams in that they are pro, but they can have players who haven't gone to college yet, which is still a stupid rule by the NCAA. And once you've entered college, you can't play in a pro league. So the U23 teams, they're called U23s, but they're really amateur teams. Think about it, amateur and pro. They won't leave USL League 2. Now, then does MLS create its own, essentially, college summer league? Then that's a different conversation. But those are two different universes.
And then the last one on Twitter comes from the Colonel. Colonel says, Inter did well at making distribution out of the back difficult, but I share Jess's frustration when Brad distributes directly through the technical area, but that's just me and Jess.
It's the ones that scare me are the balls that are played short into your own half in the middle. Not short's not the right word. Short of the midway line. The ones that are played into the middle third, in the middle of the park, when your outside backs are pushed up high, because if you don't connect there, you're dead. If you connect, okay, you got to play through a tight spot. We saw that with Eric Remedi. It can hurt you. But if you miss that ball, you're dead unless you get lucky defending, because you're going to create a 3v2 at least going the other way. The balls to the outside, they're not always high percentage, but unless you have it come up really short, if it goes long, it's a throw. You can reset. The problem is where you get on your way out, and this was something that Frank talked about with Pity Martinez, when he would check back in and play something risky in the middle third when his outside backs are exposed, when they go forward. You turn it over there, it's going to get rammed back down your throat by a team like the Red Bulls, by a team like Miami that's good in transition. You've got to be careful in those moments. Those are the moments you can't risk. Those are the moments you can't mess up. If it's not on, those are the moments you do have to kind of throw it away. You do have to play it long and give possession away and reset. If it doesn't work there, okay, don't give up something stupid. Don't try something that isn't on. Don't try something that's too risky in those moments.
We're officially caught up on Twitter, sir.
Wow, we are?
Yeah.
I can't believe we did that by 11:13.
We did that by 11:13.
That's crazy. Alex Pacine said, so, how is any of this even possible? How are you doing a daily 2+ hour show? This is actually crazy and should not be possible. I love all of you.
He's actually 9 different people. He's learned how to clone off camera.
No, I don't have any clones. That's the problem. I need clones. I'm typing to him right now, I'm just holding on for dear life. I'm just trying to do as much as I can and do it. Chris Ashley, shut up. Mizzano's trying to get me ranting. Y'all are trying to get me going right now. This is not cool. Let's see. What else we got in the Twitch pitch? Y'all go ahead. Let's do it. We're not going till 12, I'll tell you that much, because I'm eating some lunch.
Chiefs coach Steve wants to know if there are any too early predictions for the weekend.
What do we have on the weekend? Let's look ahead. I think Everton and Liverpool will be all the fire in the Premier League. I'm looking forward to that one. I don't know if Inter and Milan will be all the fire in Italy, with each team missing quite a few players. That won't be good. On the MLS side, Chicago, Kansas City could be a good one. Columbus, NYC could be a really good one. Red Bulls, Orlando should set up to be good. Cincinnati, DC, hide your eyes. Portland and LAFC could be 10-8. LA Galaxy and Vancouver, man, that's hide your eyes. San Jose, Seattle could be fun. San Jose is feeling good about themselves. And then we get a Monday game with New England and Philadelphia. That'll be weird.
I like those early thoughts. I'm with you.
That's my early thoughts. Mazzano wants me to rant about the disco. No, I'm not going to do it.
We already talked Panic at the Disco yesterday.
I'm not going to do it. I refuse.
And the day before that.
I refuse. I refuse. Although I did have a concern when Franco Escobar was not in the lineup that Disco had somehow found a way to throw an extra yellow card in this and have him suspended.
Yeah.
I was expecting that to happen because, man, they have magical powers to see things sometimes and then not see things sometimes. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. Selective eyesight?
No. It's not even selective. They don't select. It just happens. It just magically appears. It's crazy.
Magic.
Yes. Chris Ashley says, Greenville Triumph locking up hosting of the final this weekend in USL League One. That's what he is looking forward to.
Yes.
That would be good. I like it. Still don't know if we're going to do a show on the road, man. I'd love to do some of this stuff, but I'm being very, very careful. Very, very careful, because the only time I am out of my domicile that I live in, the only time that I am out of here and don't have a mask on is when I have a microphone in front of my face.
Basically, yeah.
That's it. if I'm in a store, my car is included. I'm not wearing the mask in my car. If I am in a public place, I have my mask on and I am being extremely careful and staying away from as many people as possible. And the main reason why is I have times where I have to do my job without a mask on. And I'm not going to risk Mike or Miller or Dave or engineers or anybody else I'm going to be around working and talking without a mask and yelling about a referee or yelling about Figal throwing somebody down or yelling about a goal or whatever. And I don't want to put anybody at risk around me in that. So I'm being super careful with it and maybe overly careful. And that's fine if that's the case. I want to keep working. I want to keep getting games. I want to keep everybody around me as healthy as I can. So I don't think we'll be doing a road show, but we will be doing some extra coverage of that match. I promise you that, because it's a big deal for soccer in the South. It's a big deal for Greenville, and the Triumph have always been so good to us with content, and we will make sure that all of you know what's going on with that final. I'm just not comfortable with doing a road show right now.
A couple of thoughts from Abby this morning, rapid fire.
Yeah, sure.
Do you think Lennon should have been pulled earlier and Jeff should be off the next game?
Jeff, I don't know, because it's just going to depend on how he bounces back. Lennon, I didn't have a problem with Lennon until he had that bad ball from the right to the left, and that's when they started talking about the sub. I believe, they only had one opportunity to make the sub, and I don't know what the conversation was, because Brooks was taking the throw. He had struggled. He'd come back on. He'd had a good run. He didn't look 100%, but I wasn't too worried about him at that point. They had a throw, and that would have been the time to make the sub. Wyke and Kubo were already there warming up. You also have to remember to complicate this, is that was your last opportunity to make a sub. You had 2 subs available. If you wanted to get Kubo into that game, you had to do it then. Maybe that slowed the process down to just replace Lennon because you had to get Kubo on. You had to make sure everything was ready to go for that. Maybe that's why you didn't make the sub on that throw, and it did take longer. I think it was about 5 minutes, but if I remember right, there's only the one throw that you had an opportunity to make the sub, and you didn't there. I don't think the injury caused the goal. I think Lennon got caught ball watching.
Yeah.
Was it maybe because he was tired? Maybe. But then when you bring a sub on, sometimes it takes them time to get into the flow of the match. So that's the dilemma that you're in as a manager. Do you want the tired player who is mentally sharp, or do you want the fresh player physically who is not mentally sharp because they've just walked onto the field? There's not a correct answer to that. Right. It's the dilemma that all managers have. I don't think it would have changed it, at least in Lennon's case, because I don't think the injury or fatigue caused it unless it was mental. Would Wyke have followed shape? Perhaps he would have, but I just don't know if you could have got the sub done in time, and I don't know what that conversation was. I don't know if Lennon said, I want to stay. And then after he conceded the goal, then it was like, well, you're not staying. I don't know that part for sure. I haven't had that conversation with Stephen Glass, so I don't know.
And then Abby asks, if Jeff is out, who should be captain other than Gazan?
Well, it would be Brad. If for some reason it wasn't, it would be Franco Escobar. I think he has the captain's mentality. I think if Franco Escobar's here for a long period of time, I think he wears the armband. I thought that would have been Leandro Gonzalez Perez. I think it's Franco Escobar. I really do. And more I am convinced of the idea of next year going into it with Robinson and Escobar as your 2 center backs, because it allows you to play Brooks Lennon as a right back. You don't lose what he can give you going forward with that. It allows you to play Jurgen Damm as a right winger. It makes you overall better if you can do that. Because my dilemma has always been Escobar at right back, Damm at right wing, or Lennon at one of the other, and then somebody sitting. If Escobar can play like he did against the Red Bulls, you got one of the better center backs in the league, and you have a leader. So I think it's Franco as that other captain. Even if he doesn't have the armband, I think he is acting like a captain.
All right, now we're officially caught up on Twitter.
Okay, on the Twitch pitch, Alex Bassine is singing Carpenter songs. Good stuff. I like it. We have a bot that needs to be booted.
Boot the bot.
I'm clicking. Booted. Adios, bot.
Bam.
That was fast. Bassine's still singing. Chris Ashley will take a rain check for a post-COVID roadshow. 100%. Soccer for Good OG. Does Gwen have a mask? Gwen does not have a mask. Gwen does like to say hello to everybody she sees. Almost everybody. There's some people she's scared of. It's weird. There's no rhyme or reason to it. But when she sees somebody that she knows, she starts to squeal like a kid. It's the strangest thing. I've never had a dog who's done this. She sees people that she recognizes, and she starts to squeal. It's not whining like a negative. It's excitement. It's like a child. It's bizarre. So, yes, she will go say hi, and I'm cool with that. There is hand washing afterwards, and anything is being very careful. So, but no, Gwen does not have a mask. She's been okay. She's been okay. Yeah. We've all been okay over here. Abby
Trooper does not have one, and he's antisocial. So.
Yeah, well, see, there you go. Trooper doesn't need one. Abby is now singing Corey Hart, Sunglasses at Night. So it went from the Carpenters to Corey Hart. Good job, y'all. I like it. Yes, we got your tweet, Abby. No more tweets. John, shut down Twitter. Shut it down. Conversation about the Brooks Lennon situation. I think it's ball watching more than anything.
Yeah.
Bassine says good call in the lineup. Hopefully that's the direction Pochettino wants to go. Continue the dreamland. It's all good. Mizzano, don't you want your captain to be a level-headed person to act like a captain? No, not necessarily. I think Escobar is more level-headed at center back for some reason.
Yeah.
It's strange, but it's true. No, I want him to be a leader. And leaders are all different. Gennaro Gattuso was a great captain, and I don't think he's level-headed. He was stabbing people with forks.
Sometimes
not on the field. Yeah. He didn't carry the fork on the field that we know about. But, yeah, he's stabbing his teammates with forks. I think players had to miss games because of Gattuso stabbing people with forks behind the scenes. He's insane. Roy Keane, kind of insane. Eric Cantona, not level-headed.
No.
They're all different. You can have, and it depends on the group, you can have a captain like Michael Parkhurst who is level-headed and did so much behind the scenes to keep things organized and such a great representative of the team. And you can have the captain that you would want to go into battle with. And Franco Escobar is that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I actually kind of like that style of a captain. I do. So, no, I'm not against it at all. Diego Maradona was far from level-headed, and he captained Argentina for a long time. Very different than David Beckham. Very different than Carlos Bocanegra, captain the U.S. So, captains have different personalities. You've got to find the right fit for your team as a leader. I think Franco Escobar is a leader. I really, truly do. Uncle likes Lennon more as a right winger than a right back. I'm not necessarily disagreeing. I don't have a preference yet as to one or the other, but I think at right back, he is good enough defensively. He also has a great work rate to make up for some defensive mistakes. He can recover well. I want him to be a little bit better 1v1, and if I'm working on something with him, it's his 1v1 defending on the dribble. There's been 3-4 times this year that he's been beaten on the dribble that's led to goals. Got to get rid of that. Got to be just a little more stand up. Don't dive in. Don't take yourself out of the play with a risky attempt for a tackle. That little element. That can be worked on. That can be improved. But at right back, you can still get forward and be very dangerous. So I think you might get more for the overall group with Lennon as a right back. That's where my head is. Abby, it's a pretty long leash for Gwen. It's not super long. I don't get too close, but yeah, we make it work. We handle our business. It's all good. Let's see. Katie Weaver is already done voting, and we're still talking. Yes. Chambly, it was quick, it was fast, it was spacious. I'm gonna wait till the first week kind of dies down. I'm also I could walk to my polling place. It's across the street at a church. So I've always gone after lunch and never had a line there anytime. that's probably what I'm going to do. If I vote early, I'm going to wait till like the middle of the early voting period, so it's not too crazy. Yeah. I'm waiting on more Mate suggestions, Chris Ashley. I'm waiting. I've got 2 that I like right now. If there's another brand that somebody tells me I should try, if it's a reasonable price, I will. I'm still trying to figure out how to make it sweet enough to where I really like it a little bit more. It can be a little bitter at times. I think the biggest thing I've learned about mate is the temperature of the water is so vital, and just a little different can change the taste completely. Some mates are better with hotter water than others. It's really weird, and I'm trying to get good at getting the timing and getting the temperature right. That's what I'm working on. Pacine says, genuinely think Pitti would have been a perfect captain for us. I think he was turning into it.
Yeah, because there were those moments where you would have discussions with a center ref, and you would see PT would be the one who would drift in between to kind of bust that up to make sure that a player wouldn't get another card or anything like that.
I think as he was getting comfortable, he was turning into a leader on the field. That's true. I hope everything works out well for him. I like Pitti. I like what he tried to bring to this group. I think he brought good things. He got a deal, not just the transfer fee for the club, but he got a huge contract. And that's good for him and his family. So I'm not going to have any ill will towards Pitti for anything during his time here in Atlanta. He played hard. He brought some very, very special moments. Would have loved to have seen a few more. Would have loved to have seen what he could have been in the long term. But he got paid, and there's nothing to feel bad about for that. Tesco, welcome Tesco. With Bello playing a ton of minutes, how do you think a back 4 from left to right would look with Walks, Meza, Robinson, and Escobar? Right now, I'd put Escobar in instead of Meza. Again, it's not a knock on Meza. It's just I like Escobar as a center back. Put Lennon at right back. But Walks at left back, he doesn't get forward as much. So in some ways, it makes you a little safer because he's going to stay home a little bit more. You can have your right back, in this case, if it's Escobar the way Tesco has it, or if I put Lennon there, they can really go forward and it turns into a line of 3 at times. Some teams will do that. It can work. You're just a little more limited in the attack. If you have a player like a Barco at a left wing, for example, it can really work because you're not asking him to come back as much because, Walks is going to hang deeper. So it can be effective. It just changes the personality of the group a little bit. I've almost caught up. Almost. Y'all are testing me. Abby says, I think Heineman would be a good captain one day as he gets more experience. I don't disagree. He's still got some growing up to do, but I'm noticing more personality from him on the field. Like, Parkey is a quieter guy, but you could see it with facial expressions. You could see it with moments on the field where he had a personality that was important. Heineman, for a while, was a little anonymous. Like, Nagbe wouldn't be a captain because he kind of fades into the background at times until he gets on the ball and gets out of trouble and spins away and all that. Heineman is starting to show a little bit of personality on the field. So maybe, I'm not 100% convinced there, but maybe. I think that's it. Pacine still wants to see Meza at the 6. I would have liked to have seen it. You might not have a choice. Maybe you throw him in there because Jeff can't go. But I think Mo Adams will probably get that opportunity, to be honest. I think Mo has played himself into that position. If Jeff can't start, Mo gets to start on Sunday, in my opinion. You guys are trying, but we're leaving. We're done. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for all the comments. These shows are always fun because there's not a lot of prep to do, to be honest. It is a lot of reaction to what you guys are saying. It's reaction from what we saw last night. And these are good things. I think these are the shows that kind of inform the conversation going forward and maybe set the tone in some ways. We'll see. I'd expect tomorrow afternoon media availability with Stephen Glass, with a player or two. So we'll get some more answers about how the team has bounced back from this game, what maybe you're looking at from a traveling party conversation to Hartford, Connecticut for the game on Sunday. We'll be back tomorrow, normal time, preview the weekend. We'll have a power hour Saturday morning. We'll have the run-up Saturday evening to get ready for a Sunday game. I think that's it.
I think that's it.
Trivia's been pushed back a week.
Yes.
Trivia will be next Thursday. I figured people needed more time to study. So, I said, all right, we'll push it back. Tell your friends we're trying to raise as much money as we can for soccer in the streets. Speaking of raising money, we did a good job with the scarves so far. We've still got a few more to sell. I've got to make a trip to the post office, so if you want me to add yours to it, send us a message. We'll get you taken care of. $25. All the proceeds are going to the Club Atlético Palmira Escuela de Football for their 4 to 8-year-olds. They've named it after Marcelino Moreno. We are going to show Marcelino and his original club some love and help some kids become the next Marcelino Moreno. So we still got a few more scarves to sell. Send us a message if you want one. It is time to go. Y'all have a good rest of the day. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata, y'all.